Chapter 233, Chapter 123 Taomi. At the Foundation Establishment realm, the arts learned include amnesia, concealing breath skill, thunder shadow step, and so on. At the Golden Core realm, the arts learned include the 7 mysterious sword skill, transformation technique, and so on. His own creations, the Heavenly Thunder True Dragon technique, Tribulation sword form, and even the Immortal sword scripture. All sorts of arts continuously surfaced in Lu Yi's mind. He had cultivated almost every art to the limit realm, except for the Heavenly Sword 9 Slashes and Yellow Spring and Blue Sky of the Cave Void realm, which hadn't yet reached the limit due to the high level of these arts. Lu Yi, now reminiscing about these arts, extracted the aspects of them that harmonized with the Tao and integrated them into his own experiences. He had various realizations about the sword's spiritual energy, the physical body, and the self. Suddenly, the aura around Lu Yi changed. It was an indescribable and mysterious conception, like a calm lake surface, like raging waves, apparently contradictory, yet somehow harmoniously inexplicable. Anomalies appeared in the sky, mysterious lights of indeterminate color. Some saw white, others black or yellow. Within these mysterious lights was contained an inexplicable Tao Yun, prompting the thoughts of the spectating cultivators to flow, as if gaining new insights, and even the shock in their hearts gradually settled. The Ling Luo Peak Master, who was slightly drowsy, stiffened upon witnessing this scene, her eyes widening, the sleepiness disappearing as she looked at Lu Yi with a shocked expression and parted lips. Seeing this, Liu Ningxuang asked with some confusion, "Master, what's wrong?" Liu Ningxuang had never seen her master so shocked before. The Ling Luo Peak Master regained her composure, still watching Lu Yi, and shook her head. "You don't understand. This young man is in a very rare state." Donggong Ming Yue, surrounded by thunder light, found her thunder intent realm enhanced amid the mysterious light. Hearing the Ling Luo Peak Master's words, Donggong Ming Yue asked, "What state is this?" The Ling Luo Peak Master shook her head slightly, still shocked. "It's a state seldom encountered throughout the ages. Generally, cultivators who have experienced it end up in very high places. They become immortals." Donggong Ming Yue blinked her eyes, smiling with surprise. "Senior brother really is amazing." "Become an immortal?" The Ling Luo Peak Master paused, then shook her head strangely. "You do not understand." She looked at Lu Yi, her typically lazy and hazy eyes glinting with a strange light, and smiled. "Our Tiananming has produced such a character. Unbelievable. No wonder my fate technique responded." Then she remembered something and laughed happily. "Now this young man is my direct disciple. Ha ha ha." Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Ming Yue exchanged glances, feeling that their master had more to say, yet they did not quite understand her meaning. Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Ming Yue were both astute, and after the matter with the heavenly dragon Saint's son, they naturally understood that their master was no ordinary person. Now it seemed, perhaps very much so. The third heavenly thunder ended, and the thunderclouds slowly dissipated, marking the complete end of the heavenly tribulation. Lu Yi, floating in midair, slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were clear and untainted, giving the impression of an innocent neighborhood youth. Yet no one would consider him an ordinary neighborhood youth after surviving such a terrifying tribulation unscathed, even without his vestment robe being damaged. The anomalies around Lu Yi dissipated. The numerous cultivators also snapped out of their trances, their eyes shining brightly, filled with joy and surprise. What was that anomaly junior brother Lu experienced? I actually gained insight from that anomaly, and I've come to understand the arts that once baffled me. Me too. It's like my mind suddenly got better. The profound mysteries of the cultivation techniques that were difficult to grasp, I've understood them now. Even individuals like Wu Qingfeng felt immense joy. The arts that they hadn't fully grasped before, they now suddenly understood. An extremely aged Supreme Elder's eyes flickered with a sharp light, his aura fluctuating inexplicably, his expression uncontrollably joyful. "I've realized it." He transformed into a streak of light and vanished from the spot. Wu Qingfeng and the others were startled, and then Qi Ling's eyes widened. "Elder Liu's aura, it looks like he might break through to the cave void realm." "Haha, it seems that our White Cloud sect will soon have another cave void. The great prosperity of the White Cloud sect is imminent." Several elder cultivators were exceptionally delighted. They too had gained insights, moving one step closer to the cave void realm, almost as if one foot had already stepped into it. Even Elder Ming, who was at the cave void realm, gained new insights, taking his understanding of sword intent to a higher level. "Haha, I've actually comprehended a conception. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful," someone laughed aloud. All eyes immediately turned in that direction, including Wu Qingfeng and his peers. The speaker was a handsome young man. Seeing this person, the expressions of many changed slightly. This individual was Nangong Moyu. Originally at the Golden Core realm, he had encountered some opportunities over the previous years, and now he had broken through to the nascent soul realm. At this moment, Nangong Moyu's body was surrounded by strands of flame that made him look like a god of fire descending, extraordinarily out of the ordinary. The Fire Realm. His rivals like Zai Tianming and Venerable Huang, who had also broken through to the nascent soul realm, had stiff expressions at the sight of this anomaly within the White Cloud sect. "This is really bad luck. I thought I had comprehended a supreme art that would allow me to suppress these fellows," Zai Tianming frowned, very displeased. Wang Tianzhen was also frowning, watching the flames around Nangong Moyu with a not-so-pleasant mood. Nangong Moyu was overjoyed. Being able to comprehend a conception at the nascent soul realm was enough to qualify him as a person of heavenly pride level in the entire Eastern domain, perhaps even with the hope of entering the young talent's ranking. In Qingzhou, besides a few with innate spiritual bodies, he was powerful enough to dominate. Feeling the attention of the crowd, Nangong Moyu's mouth curled into a smile. Recalling something, he faced the distant Lu Yi and saluted with clasped hands, saying loudly, "Thank you, junior brother Lu, for helping your senior brother in his enlightenment. Later at Yulan Pavilion, your senior brother will host a banquet. You must come and support the event." At this moment, Lu Yi was sorting out his own enlightenment. Hearing this, he looked up, saw the flames circulating around Nangong Moyu and also showed a smile. "No problem." In the past, Lu Yi would occasionally spar with Nangong Moyu, with rewards that also included thousand-year-old spirit marrow, so naturally, their relationship was good. Now that Nangong Moyu had comprehended the Fire Realm, Lu Yi's future practice tasks included rewards associated with the Fire Realm, which naturally made him very happy. During Lu Yi's breakthrough, a large number of White Cloud sect cultivators gained insights. Everyone congratulated Lu Yi on his breakthrough, and then they dispersed to go into seclusion. Lu Yi also returned to his cave mansion. Meanwhile, the news of Lu Yi, the immortal seed of the White Cloud sect, breaking through to the nascent soul, spread like wildfire throughout Qingzhou within a day. The White Cloud sect's immortal seed made a significant event happen after nearly 10 years of silence, shaking the entire Qingzhou. At this moment, in all cities and sects, numerous cultivators were discussing this matter. Chapter 234, 124 I am the first. Chapter 234, Chapter 124 I am the first. In the days following Lu Yi's breakthrough, he was very busy, with many familiar brothers and sisters from the sect inviting him to banquets. On one hand, they congratulated Lu Yi on his breakthrough to the nascent soul realm, and on the other hand, they were grateful for the anomaly he had radiated during his tribulation crossing, which had given them some enlightenment. Some of the talented brothers and sisters of the White Cloud sect already had no weak talents, and in the midst of the mystic light enlightenment, they all made considerable progress. Some comprehended powerful arts, some gained a deeper understanding of cultivation techniques, some achieved enlightenment, considerably smoothing their path of cultivation. Of course, the luckiest of them all was Nangong Moyu, who mastered the Fire Realm. In the nascent soul realm, to master conception was to be a rare existence even across the entire Eastern domain. One day, as Lu Yi had just returned from Yulan Pavilion, he saw a charming figure in a green dress standing outside the door of his cave mansion. Lu Yi was startled, and with a hint of surprise he said, "Yunzai, what brings you here?" Yunzai turned around, and upon seeing Lu Yi, a joyful smile spread across her face. "Brother Lu, I heard you've broken through to the nascent soul realm. Granny Hua sent me to celebrate with you and to bring a congratulatory gift," she said. With a smile, Lu Yi responded, "If you're here to celebrate, that's more than enough. Why bring a gift?" During the early chaos in Qingzhou, 10,000 Flowers sect and Cold Winter Valley had been advancing and retreating alongside White Cloud sect, and with the timely addition of Wenjian Manor, the four sects enjoyed a strong relationship. From time to time, there would be exchange meetings amongst the disciples, some organized by the sects themselves and others privately by the disciples. The young disciples from 10,000 Flowers sect, Cold Winter Valley, and Wenjian Manor often visited White Cloud sect, and naturally, Yunzai and Han Yu did the same, coming over to White Cloud Sect once or twice a year to meet with Lu Yi. The trio naturally had a good relationship. During each gathering and exchange, Lu Yi had gained quite a bit of centennial spirit marrow, and his understanding of the natural realm had also improved considerably, even reaching 70%. Although it wasn't comparable to the Heart of Ice, since Lu Yi often sparred with his sect sisters and also gained from Han Yu's visits, it was natural that he couldn't measure up. Seeing Yunzai coming over, Lu Yi was quite happy. He warmly invited Yunzai into his cave mansion, took out fine wine and spirit food, and drank together with her. Brother Lu, your cultivation speed is truly extreme, having reached the nascent soul realm so quickly. I admire you, Yunzai said, raising her glass with a smile. Lu Yi also smiled as he drank down the wine. Yunzai's strength was quite impressive too, having reached the golden core 11th layer, breaking past the heavenly Tao limitation. However, compared to Lu Yi, the gap was still significant. A part of the reason was that Lu Yi's cultivation required more resources, or else his cultivation speed would be even faster. This 10,000 flowers dew was refined by Granny Hua over 2,000 years, and there are only 3 bottles in total. This is her gift to you, said Yunzai, after a few drinks, as she took out a white porcelain bottle and handed it to Lu Yi. At these words, Lu Yi was stunned, looking at the white porcelain bottle with some surprise. This is the 10,000 flowers dew from 10,000 Flowers Sect's heritage. It's said to revive the dead and heal white bones, possessing incredible healing effects, and is a secret treasure of the 10,000 Flowers Sect. Granny Hua actually sent it to me. This 10,000 flowers dew was quite famous throughout Qingzhou. It was rumored that even cave void cultivators could be healed from fatal injuries by it, making it an extremely rare healing holy medicine. With a faint smile, Yunzai said, ordinary people, of course, would not receive such a precious gift from Granny Hua, but you, Brother Lu, with your astonishing talent, might become an immortal in the future. Granny Hua certainly treats you differently. Lu Yi gave a wry smile. Yunzai was almost giving away all of Granny Hua's secrets. However, Lu Yi naturally had some understanding of Granny Hua's thoughts. He smiled, took the porcelain bottle, and said, if that's the case, then I won't be coy. Yunzai, please thank Granny Hua for me when you return. Yes, Yunzai nodded. After a few more drinks, Lu Yi said with a smile, since it's rare for Yunzai to visit, how about we have a friendly spar? He was not willing to pass up the chance to gain insight into the natural realm. Yunzai was taken aback, looked at Lu Yi, and then laughed. Brother Lu, your cultivation has reached the nascent soul, and your strength far surpasses mine. Sparring with me won't bring you any gains, only a waste of your time, she said. Who says so? Lu Yi chuckled. Your arts are somewhat enlightening to me as well. But he considered that Yunzai's cultivation level was falling behind his, and he thought of the wood spirit pearl he had obtained before. Lu Yi took out the wood spirit pearl and handed it to Yunzai. Yunzai, this wood spirit pearl came to me by a twist of fate. I am gifting it to you. It should be of help to you, he said. Seeing the wood spirit pearl radiating a rich vitality, Yunzai fell silent for a long time. Just as Lu Yi was about to speak again, she tilted her head, looking at Lu Yi, and said, Brother Lu, is this your way of asking me to be your Taoist couple? Her question caught Lu Yi off guard. He didn't react immediately, looking at Yunzai with a puzzled face. What? Yunzai pointed at the wood spirit pearl and explained, we are friends, but the wood spirit pearl is so precious. If I accept it, I would need to reciprocate with something equally valuable. She paused, then looked straight at Lu Yi and said quite frankly, of course, I would be happy to become your Taoist couple. I'm just worried I might not be able to keep up with your pace in the future. Lu Yi. He looked rather bewildered at Yunzai, who had openly mentioned she was willing to be his Taoist couple, still not quite able to wrap his head around it. Chapter 235, 124 I am the first two. Chapter 236, 124, I'm the first three. Chapter 236, Chapter 124, I'm the first /3. Lu Yi also took off the incense bag from his neck and showed it to Yunzai. Yunzai's gaze flickered slightly, and she nodded thoughtfully before laughing. Brother Lu, will you tell Sister Minju and Sister Ning Shuang about my matter? Lu Yi nodded, I naturally will. Actually, he was quite troubled. If he told them, he guessed the junior sister and senior sister might explode, right? But if he didn't tell them, it would be even more unfair to the two of them and also to Yunzai. Helpless, Lu Yi felt that since he had done it, he had to take responsibility. Yunzai smiled slightly, then I promise you. Luya was stunned, then smiled, really. Yes, Yunzai brushed her hair aside. Even as straightforward as she was, a faint blush still appeared on her face, but she spoke directly. Of course, you have to tell them first. Luya nodded, of course. Then Luya thought of something and handed the wood spirit pearl to Yunzai. Take this wood spirit pearl for now. Yunzai still paused, looked at Luya and laughed. Brother Lu, you can give me this wood spirit pearl when I become your Taoist couple. I can't pledge myself to you just yet. Luya smiled and said, Yunzai, you misunderstand. Even if you don't pledge yourself to me, I will still give you this wood spirit pearl. I'm giving it to you as a friend. After all, it's of no use to me. Only by giving it to you will this pearl not be buried in the dust. Yunzai looked intently at Luya, fell silent for a moment, then nodded slightly and took the wood spirit pearl. Then Yunzai thanks Brother Lu. By the way, Brother Lu, Yunzai also has a gift for you. Yunzai smiled slightly. Luya looked at Yunzai with some confusion. What gift? Yunzai reached out, wrapped her arm around Luya's neck, and then Luya saw Yunzai's pretty face drawing close, a delicate floral fragrance enveloping him, and he felt a soft touch on his lips. The sensation quickly disappeared, and Yunzai sat back, a smile appearing on her face. This is the gift. Luya touched his lips, looking seriously at Yunzai. Can I ask for this gift a few more times? Yunzai's face flushed slightly and she glared at him. Brother Lu, you're getting a bit greedy. Then she thought of something and asked, haven't Sister Minju and Sister Ning Shuang done this before? Luya was startled, then nodded slightly, yes. Yunzai laughed very happily. That's good, I'm the first one. Seeing how happy Yunzai was, Luya suddenly felt it might not be so good. For some reason, he felt that if the senior sister and junior sister knew about this, it would probably make him suffer. As Luya was feeling inexplicably nervous, Yunzai laughed. Brother Lu, let's spar. Luya put that thought aside and nodded, okay. Finally, he would be able to spar and get rewards. Then Luya glanced again at the task of making Yunzai fall in love with him, which was still incomplete. Luya had some guesses in his mind. If it wasn't a bug in the task, then he might know what conditions were needed to complete the task. Luya felt a bit uneasy. After sparring with Yunzai, she left the White Cloud sect that same day. Luya returned to his cave mansion with a heavy heart, now feeling a bit troubled, not knowing how to explain the situation to his senior sister and junior sister. He guessed that his senior sister and junior sister must have wanted to kill him. Luya recalled an anime he had seen in his previous life called School Days, and words like nice boat and hatchet came to mind, making him inexplicably feel a chill around his neck. He felt it was an illusion, for, with his physical body, even a high-grade treasure cutting at his neck wouldn't be able to sever it, though a severe bleeding was certain. Suddenly, Luya felt that giving the cold glass sword to his senior sister had been a bit too hasty. If only he had waited a bit longer to give it. Luckily, after Luya's breakthrough, his senior sister and junior sister also had significant insights under the mysterious light. On the day they returned to Ling Luo Peak, they congratulated Lu Yi on his breakthrough and then went into closed-door cultivation. With the spiritual pearl and the enlightenment from the mysterious light, they surely had significant gains and might need a long time in seclusion. Thinking of this, Luya breathed a sigh of relief. At least he wouldn't have to face this issue for now. Before that, he needed to further enhance his physical body, striving to reach a state where even high-grade magical treasures couldn't harm his neck. In this regard, Luya was somewhat confident. During the heavenly tribulation, Luya had achieved tremendous gains. He had deduced the heavenly thunder true dragon technique to the unification realm. If he could perfect his cultivation, even a low-grade spiritual weapon wouldn't be a concern for Luya to handle directly. Moreover, he still possessed a drop of true dragon essence blood. After consuming it, it would be sufficient to further enhance his heavenly thunder true dragon technique, and his physical strength would increase significantly. Though it might not withstand low-grade spiritual weapons, defending against top-grade treasures should be no problem. Luya felt an urgency and planned to fervently cultivate. However, Luya's plans were disrupted. The next morning, Han Yu also arrived, bringing with him the secret treasure of Cold Winter Valley, the 10,000-year-old ice jade, as a congratulatory gift. The 10,000-year-old ice jade was a heavenly material and earthly treasure that could aid in calming the mind and consolidating energy, highly precious and particularly effective against heart demons. Within the entire cold winter valley, there were only a few pieces. It was unexpected that Han Yu would bring one. It was evident that the attitude of cold winter valley towards him was extremely cordial. Lu Yi and Han Yu spent half a day drinking and another half sparring, gaining some centennial spirit marrow and insights into the heart of ice. Ultimately, Lu Yi gave Han Yu some ice spirit liquid that he had obtained from previous tasks. Since the ice spirit pearl had been given to his senior sister, unfortunately, Han Yu didn't receive one. Even the ice spirit liquid alone had almost stunned Han Yu. If it weren't for Lu Yi's insistence, Han Yu likely wouldn't have dared to accept such a precious item. In the end, Han Yu almost swore to become Lu Yi's follower. Feeling a bit embarrassed, Lu Yi did not agree, always feeling that having followers made him seem like a gang leader with younger brothers, a typical antagonist vibe that makes one easily targeted. Afterward, other sects similarly sent people to congratulate Lu Yi on his breakthrough, each presenting treasures. Only Sword Mountain Villa brought something extremely precious, a mid-grade treasure longsword, an extraordinarily generous gift from the Kingju sect. The items provided by the other four sects were valuable, but not to this extent. Lu Yi gave them to his friendly senior brothers and sisters. Afterward, Lu Yi finally had the time to announce his closed-door cultivation, intending to consume the true dragon essence blood. Post now, edit later. Chapter 237, 125, The Dying Immortal Extra for 400 monthly tickets. Chapter 237, Chapter 125, The Dying Immortal Extra for 400 monthly tickets. In the cave mansion cultivation room, Lu Yi took out that drop of true dragon essence blood. Unlike ordinary true dragon blood, the essence blood was golden throughout, pulsating with intense brilliance, with even a small dragon moving within it. Merely a drop of blood, yet it was as heavy as a myriad of mountains, and the pressure it emitted was terrifying, causing the surrounding void to distort. Only because Lu Yi's physical body was sufficiently strong was he able to bear such pressure. He swallowed the true dragon essence blood. Instantly, a proud and resonant dragon's roar sounded in Lu Yi's mind. It felt as though numerous true dragons were moving inside Lu Yi's body, Tao patterns flickering. The frightening power caused Lu Yi's muscles to crack open and his bones to make clattering noises. Blood oozed from the cracks in his skin, crimson mixed with streaks of golden light. It was only a moment before Lu Yi's body was soaked in blood. This was the first time Lu Yi had suffered such injuries after his flesh had grown strong. As a cultivator who defied the heavenly Tao pressure and broke through several layers of the heavenly Tao limitation, Lu Yi's determination was naturally steadfast. Even under intense pain, his expression didn't change in the slightest. His nascent soul was exhibiting the aspect of Lu Yi's Tao nature, and the sounds of the great Tao resonated within him. Lu Yi directly used a sudden enlightenment opportunity, beginning to calmly perceive the true dragon Tao patterns. Different from the true dragon blood, after the true dragon essence blood entered his body, the image of the true dragon that emerged in Lu Yi's mind was even more vivid, every scale and claw seemingly right before his eyes, and even its supreme majesty caused a heaviness in his chest. The true dragon stood amidst the star river, with stars around it dimmed, not as dazzling as the golden light emerging from its body. Every inch of his body had Tao patterns flowing, as if born from the Tao itself. Lu Yi observed each Tao pattern, and under the guidance of the Tao sound and sudden enlightenment, he began to perceive. Time passed, and after a long while, Lu Yi slowly opened his eyes, his gaze containing complex golden Tao patterns that flickered and then gradually disappeared. The terrifying surge of vital energy circulated within Lu Yi's body. Had he not controlled it himself, the noise of the flowing blood might have spread throughout the entire White Cloud sect. His gains were substantial. The Tao patterns contained within the true dragon essence blood were indeed complex and mysterious, but Lu Yi, being close to the Tao and having strong comprehension, even though his cultivation base had just stepped into the nascent soul and was far from the immortal realm, still perceived a trace of the mystery of the true dragon Tao patterns. He extrapolated a new heavenly thunder true dragon technique that, if perfected, could reach the Mahayana realm, extremely formidable and terrifying. Not only that, after absorbing the true dragon essence blood, Lu Yi's physique underwent another transformation, reborn anew. At this moment, every part of his body was engraved with Tao patterns, radiating an immensely powerful force. But soon Lu Yi furrowed his brows, feeling somewhat restless. He thought of his senior sister and junior sister, thought of Yunzai, and felt fluctuations in his emotions. The corners of Lu Yi's mouth twitched slightly, feeling some toothache. The true dragon essence blood contained a stronger aspect of the true dragon's nature compared to the previously absorbed true dragon blood. Even though his current cultivation base and physical body were much stronger than before, it still had an effect on him. However, Lu Yi's will was firm. He suppressed these unusual sensations and once again started to temper his flesh and blood, simultaneously eliminating the adverse effects. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, a year had gone by. Throughout this year, Lu Yi cultivated peacefully every day, perceiving the magic skills, perceiving the nascent soul chapter of the Immortal sword scripture. As his nascent soul solidified, Lu Yi's capability for enlightenment improved again. The nascent soul chapter of the Immortal sword scripture only took him a year to cultivate to the level 4, which was even faster than the golden core chapter. Yet Lu Yi still felt a sense of urgency in his heart. After all, the nascent soul chapter was the last part of the Immortal sword scripture he possessed. If he broke through to the divinity transformation realm without acquiring a new chapter, he would have to switch to cultivating another technique. He resolved that if by then he hadn't found the missing chapters of the Immortal sword scripture, he would inquire with his master to see if there were any other effective cultivation techniques available. If all else failed, he still had the great Mahayana technique, the Green Lotus Unity skill, received as a reward when he broke through to the nascent soul realm. Though this cultivation technique was somewhat inferior to the Immortal scriptures, it was still sufficient for him to reach the Mahayana realm. When he broke through to the Mahayana realm, wouldn't acquiring the Immortal scripture as a task reward be easy? All he would have to do was spend some time converting to a new cultivation technique. Despite that, Lu Yi would still occasionally go out to investigate and see if there were any remnants or legacies of the Immortal sword sect appearing. Alas, to date, he had found nothing. One day, as Lu Yi was cultivating, a familiar voice suddenly came from outside the door. "Junior brother, come out quickly. I have some good news to tell you." Lu Yi was startled, opening his eyes in surprise. It was the voice of Jian Ruyu. Ever since the Sword Tao conference, Jian Ruyu had an epiphany, stayed in the Sword God sect to seclude herself, and they hadn't met since then, nearly 10 years ago. Of course, to a nascent soul cultivator, 10 years was actually a short time. What puzzled Lu Yi was why Jian Ruyu would suddenly come to find him. Moreover, she mentioned good news. Lu Yi stepped out of the cave mansion, only to see Jian Ruyu, dressed in simple linen clothes, holding a jade-like long sword at the doorway, her black hair shining, her brows and eyes filled with the distinct sharp aura of a sword cultivator. Lu Yi said with a smile, "Senior sister Ruyu, it's been a long time. What brings you to the White Cloud sect so suddenly? Are you here to see senior sister?" Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue had been in seclusion ever since Lu Yi's tribulation crossing, and even now, they had not emerged. Chapter 238, 125, The Dying Immortal Extra Chapter for 400 monthly tickets due. Chapter 238, Chapter 125, The Dying Immortal Extra Chapter for 400 monthly tickets /2. Lu Yi wanted to talk to them about Yunzai, but he never had the chance. His physical body was now amazingly strong. Lu Yi had confidence that even faced with a high-grade treasure, he wouldn't be injured. Jian Ruyu shook her head and smiled. "That's not it. I came specifically to find you, junior brother. Someone in Yuanju has discovered a ruin, suspected to be an inheritance land of the Immortal sword sect." Hearing this, Lu Yi's pupils shrank and his face lit up with joy. "Really?" Jian Ruyu nodded. "Of course, it's true. I heard about this and came to find you immediately. The news hasn't spread widely yet. If we go now, we should make it in time." Lu Yi felt warm in his heart upon hearing her words. "Thank you, senior sister." Jian Ruyu chuckled and patted Lu Yi's shoulder. "What's there to thank for? Since I've already addressed you as junior brother, naturally I have to look out for you. But first, let me visit Ningxuang. It's been a long time since I've seen her." Lu Yi smiled and said, "Senior sister is in seclusion right now. It's not a good time to disturb her." Hearing this, Jian Ruyu nodded slightly. "In that case, let's set off right away." "All right," Lu Yi nodded. He made a trip to the top of Ling Luo Peak and informed his master that he planned to take a long journey. His master was sleepy-eyed and naturally had no objections, only complaining that there would be nobody to run errands for her if he was out too. After all, Liu Ningxuang and Dongong Mingyue were still in seclusion. Lu Yu was speechless. This person really preferred to lie in bed all day and not move an inch. Ignoring her, Lu Yi then went to look for Elder Ming, only to find Elder Ming was also in seclusion. The enlightenment and mysterious light from Lu Yi's last tribulation provided many insights for the older generation of practitioners, with several supreme elders remaining in seclusion up until now. Even Master Wu Qingfeng was still in seclusion. Seeing that Elder Ming was also in seclusion, Lu Yi did not disturb him. Although having Elder Ming as a protector would increase his security, Lu Yi had accumulated some bottom-line rewards from the tasks he had carried out over the years. Some were of no use to him, but many were vital, so he wouldn't face much of a threat. Moreover, Jian Ruyu was with him. As the genius of the Divine Sword sect, most elder strong ones would be wary of taking action against them. So Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu left the White Cloud sect together. Not long after leaving the sect, Lu Yi asked Jian Ruyu to stop for a moment. He took out a blue spirit boat. The spirit boat was over 20 meters long with a gorgeous palace built atop it for dwelling, and its surface was inscribed with profoundly mysterious array patterns. It was clearly a very rare cultivation treasure. This was the Qingxuan boat, a mid-grade treasure, awarded to Lu Yi when he successfully challenged the divinity transformation realm layer in the trial tower. Seeing the Qingxuan boat, Jian Ruyu's eyes widened in astonishment. Glancing at Lu Yi, she exclaimed, "This is a mid-grade flying treasure. Junior brother, you actually have such great stuff. Even the cave void elders of our divine sword sect probably don't have one." Lu Yi saw Jian Ruyu's surprised look and smiled slightly, explaining, "This was an opportunity that came by chance to your junior brother." Jian Ruyu couldn't help but sigh, "You're really lucky." Then she smiled. "A mid-grade flying treasure is extremely fast. With this Qingxuan boat, we can get to Yuanzhou much faster, so we don't have to worry about being late." Jian Ruyu was initially worried about missing out, considering it took her not a short amount of time to get the news and rush back from the Divine Sword sect to the White Cloud sect. Now that she had this mid-grade treasure, Jian Ruyu was completely worry-free. Lu Yi nodded, "Let's get on." The two boarded the Qingxuan boat. Lu Yi loaded it with spirit stones and activated the Qingxuan boat. As a mid-grade flying treasure, the Qingxuan boat was exceedingly fast, turning into a streak of blue light, flying towards Yuanzhou like teleportation. Yuanzhou was located towards the west of the eastern domain, not far from the central domain, but quite a distance from Qingzhou, even farther than Wangzhou. In fact, Wangzhou was located between Yuanzhou and Qingzhou, roughly at the central position of their route. In just half a day, the Qingxuan boat had flown out of Qingzhou, much faster than when Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang, and Elder Ming traveled to Wangzhou. 2 days later, Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu noticed quite a few practitioners seemed to be hurrying towards Yuanzhou. Some major sects were utilizing ancient treasure ships, and on these ships stood numerous cultivators, while powerful individuals flew past riding terrifying fierce beasts. There were also cultivators flying on their swords, equally quick. Seeing all this activity, Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu made inquiries in the cities along the way. Only then did they learn that the news of the ruin discovered in Yuanzhou had spread out, and outside the ruin circulated undying array patterns, suspected to be a sect protection array of a sacred land Immortal sect, alerting practitioners throughout the eastern domain. Numerous eastern region practitioners were rushing to Yuanzhou, looking to try their luck. "I didn't expect it to spread so quickly," Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu said within an inn, after listening to the loud discussions of cultivators around them. Lu Yi smiled without surprise. After all, it's such a big ruin. It's unreal to think of keeping it secret. Jian Ruyu nodded. They continued on their way, gathering information as they went. In just 7 days, they passed Wangzhou and approached Yuanzhou. As they got closer to Yuanzhou, more and more practitioners were converging, as if a grand event was taking place. "Have you heard? The Saint Heir and Saintess from the Tei Holy Land have rushed over." Not just Tei Holy Land, but the Saint Heirs from the Thunder Sound Immortal sect and the Taixuan Immortal sect have also come. The younger generation from these sacred land Immortal sects are immensely powerful. Chapter 239, 125. Dying Immortal 400 monthly tickets plus updates 3. On my way here, I saw the dragon boat of the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land and caught a glimpse of the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun atop. It was but a fleeting glance, yet I felt as if I were facing a young dragon. In all the sacred land immortal sects of the Eastern Domain, he must be considered an unrivaled character, right? Indeed, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun is very strong. These days, he has been challenging the young generation of each great sect, and it's almost always a crushing victory. But I heard that the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's first battle was in Kingzhu, where he was thwarted by that innate sword Immortal of the White Cloud sect. Some cultivators had heard this news, while others were unaware. Upon hearing this, discussions erupted. Really? In recent years, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun has emerged undefeated, and he lost his first battle. I know of that innate sword Immortal from the White Cloud sect. He was sensational at the Sword Tao conference years ago, and being only in the Golden Core realm, he had already formed the Sword Tao domain. I heard that even the old master was surprised. I used to think it was just a rumor, but it turned out to be true. I've never even heard of the White Cloud sect, and they produced such a character. Wonder what kind of luck they stumbled upon. Yeah, if such a character were to ascend, the White Cloud sect would probably become a sacred land immortal sect as well. The crowd sighed in admiration. Jian Ruyu, hearing the words of these cultivators, smiled slightly and transmitted his voice. Junior brother, you're quite famous now, huh? But you are indeed formidable. Even the heavenly dragon Saint Sun was defeated by you. Lu Yi smiled slightly. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun is indeed not weak. I also had to expend quite some effort to defeat him. Jian Ruyu, not knowing the details of the battle, nodded thoughtfully. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun is indeed powerful. He was heavily cultivated by the heavenly dragon Holy Land, and he has never been defeated by any great seer. Lu Yi, somewhat surprised, glanced at Jian Ruyu. He came to your divine sword sect. Yes, after being defeated by you, he secluded himself for 5 years and broke through to the nascent soul realm. After emerging, he challenged our divine sword sect. I was in secluded cultivation at the time, and it was Elder Wang who met his challenge. It took only 10 rounds for him to defeat Elder Wang. Lu Yi, upon hearing this, showed no surprise. In the Golden Core realm, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun was already extraordinarily strong, nearly catching up to his own sister. Breaking through to the nascent soul, he was certainly stronger. Defeating Wang Kaifeng was quite normal. Lu Yi was puzzled. I heard that the heavenly dragon Saint Sun was cultivated from a young age with true dragon blood. Don't other sects have such resources? Jian Ruyu shook her head slightly. As immortal beasts, true dragons are tremendously powerful, and even immortals may not necessarily be their match. True dragon blood is extremely rare in sacred land immortal sects, and even they wouldn't be so extravagant. Lu Yi raised an eyebrow, quite astonished. How does the heavenly dragon Saint Sun have such resources? Jian Ruyu looked around and transmitted her voice. I heard from the master that it seems to be related to that ascended individual from the heavenly dragon Holy Land. Lu Yi was startled, quite shocked. Related to the immortal backing the heavenly dragon Holy Land. Yes, master said that the immortal backing the heavenly dragon Holy Land suffered a severe injury due to an accident, damaging even his lifespan, with only 10,000 years remaining. He wishes to cultivate a new immortal to preserve the legacy of the heavenly dragon Holy Land before he dies, which is why he invested so heavily. Hearing this, Lu Yi's eyes widened in shock, and he transmitted his voice. Even immortals can die. Lu Yi had always thought that immortals could live as long as the heavens and the earth. It seems that is not the case. Of course not. While immortals do have long lifespans, they too can die of old age. To truly live as long as the heavens and the earth, one must be incredibly strong. Jian Ruyu, a descendant of the immortal sect and from a sect that has produced several immortals, had a certain understanding of immortals and spoke somewhat wistfully. However, even just having ascended to immortality grants one a lifespan of 1,000,000 years. 1,000,000 years. Lu Yi grinned, finding it almost no different from being immortal. If it were his previous life, 1,000,000 years would span from the Paleolithic age to the present, witnessing the entire history of human civilization. However, that individual from the heavenly dragon Holy Land did not die a natural death, and currently, there is only that immortal in the heavenly dragon Holy Land. If he dies, the heavenly dragon Holy Land is likely to undergo significant turmoil. Jian Ruyu continued, transmitting her voice. Lu Yi's gaze shifted, now understanding. After all, as an immortal sect sacred land, the heavenly dragon Holy Land undoubtedly possessed vast resources and the legacy of the immortal scripture. If there were no immortal to support it from behind, it would very likely be swallowed up by other immortal sects. The issues of resources and heritage showed a decidedly brutal and bloody side of the cultivation world. Lu Yi suddenly understood and nodded slightly. No wonder the heavenly dragon Holy Land is cultivating a saint's son in such a manner. Lu Yi felt a chill inside, grateful that he hadn't killed the heavenly dragon saint's son before. If he really had killed him, Lu Yi even wondered if that immortal might descend to Tiananmen and slap him to death. Lu Yi was somewhat puzzled and asked, "Doesn't that immortal have 10,000 years left? Why is he so anxious to cultivate a saint's son?" Jian Ruyu rolled her eyes at Lu Yi, somewhat exasperated. "Junior brother, do you think everyone is like you? 10,000 years for a cultivator is extremely challenging to ascend. What's more, if the saint's son isn't talented enough and they have to start over, there are too many uncertainties." Lu Yi felt a bit embarrassed, realizing he hadn't considered this. After all, ascending was not a problem for him, but for others it was a significant issue. While they were communicating through transmitted voices, several domineering and turbulent auras pressed fiercely down towards the tavern. The table shattered, dishes fell to the ground, and even cultivators with weaker cultivation bases paled, their faces filled with fright as they looked towards the entrance. At the entrance, several young men with cold expressions and gazes that swept across the tavern approached. Their magic robes were adorned with peculiar patterns, resembling dragons. The expressions of many cultivators changed. It's disciples from the heavenly dragon Holy Land. The atmosphere in the tavern instantly quieted. Outside on the street, passers-by also quickly left, fearing to provoke the cultivators from the heavenly dragon Holy Land. The leading disciple from the heavenly dragon Holy Land, who was in the nascent soul realm and had a very formidable aura, looked around the tavern with a cold expression and slowly said, "Who dares to disparage our heavenly dragon Holy Land saint's son?" Chapter 240, 126, Scare Away with One Glance. Chapter 241, 126, Scaring Away with One Glance 2. Before leaving, Lu Yi glanced at the pale-faced tavern owner and after a moment of thought, left several spirit stones behind. To him it was nothing significant, but for the tavern owner, it was a ray of hope in life. Lu Yi sighed inwardly, realizing how easily the weak could suffer undeserved calamities, and resolved to diligently pursue his cultivation. It was only after Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu left that the cultivators present dared to start discussing excitedly. News quickly spread of a born sword immortal who had, with a mere wisp of sword intent, pressured a heavenly dragon Holy Land's nascent soul disciple to turn and flee. Suddenly, many cultivators were paying attention to Lu Yi. Those sword cultivators who had attended the Sword Tao conference knew that Lu Yi's cultivation technique was the immortal sword scripture, a fragment of an immortal scripture. And now, the discovery of the immortal sect ruins was very likely the heritage site of the legendary immortal sword sect, possibly containing the complete immortal sword scripture inside. It was expected that Lu Yi would surely take action to compete for the immortal sword scripture. In addition to Lu Yi, many young generations of the immortal sect Holy Lands and even the more formidable prodigies from the senior generation were expected to come, leading to a lively contest. 2 days later, another piece of news came out that the heavenly dragon saint's son, upon hearing of Lu Yi's exploits, had his dragon chi surging around him like a true dragon roaring, seemingly ready for another battle with Lu Yi. As an immortal seedling nurtured by a holy land, even a single failure had not led him to decadence, but instead fueled his fighting spirit even more. Besides, the heavenly dragon saint's son had now broken through to the nascent soul realm, far surpassing his previous strength and unmatched among his peers. Many were looking forward to their rematch, eager to see who would emerge as the victor. 3 days later, Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu finally entered Yuanzhou. The ruins were located in the western part of Yuanzhou, not far from an ancient city called Cold Cicada. Cold Cicada Ancient City was rumored to be the ascension site of an immortal. The original name of the city had been forgotten, with only the name of the immortal, Cold Cicada, remaining. Henceforth, the city came to be known as Cold Cicada Ancient City. Rumors had it that the Cold Cicada Immortal had left behind all the insights into the immortal path acquired before his ascension. If one could obtain them, it would be sufficient to cultivate up to the tribulation transcendence realm. Many cultivators would try their luck in the city on normal days, but while no one had discovered the immortal path insights, A heritage site had been recently found nearby, drawing many eyes. Soon, Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu arrived above Cold Cicada Ancient City and found a large number of cultivators within. The occasional burst of powerful aura alarmed even Lu Yi. These were the auras of cultivators surpassing the cave void realm. After all, this could be an immortal sex inheritance land, and the heritage and items within were too precious for even such powerful figures to ignore. Jian Ruyu also mentioned that the Divine Sword sect had sent powerful members here, led by a great Mahayana elder, but it did not rule out the presence of hidden elders at the Tribulation Crossing realm. As one of the Immortal sect Holy Lands, Divine Sword sect had such a strong lineup, so it was certain the others would not be lacking either. The competition was sure to be fierce. After Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu entered the city, they first went to the Divine Sword sect's quarters. For Lu Yi, his own strength was not yet formidable enough. He felt powerless facing great Mahayana cultivators, let alone Tribulation Crossing practitioners. Staying with the cultivators of the Divine Sword sect meant he had support behind him. Lu Yi had a favorable impression of the Divine Sword sect from the Sword Tao conference and was willing to open the Sword Tao platform, a treasure, to all sword cultivators in the Eastern Domain for comprehending the Sword Tao. He presumed the sect wouldn't be too bad. Moreover, his master seemed to have a good relationship with the Divine Sword sect. From the previous matter with the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, Lu Yi had realized that his master was quite extraordinary. With his master's relationship with the Divine Sword sect, they should not make things difficult for him. The residence of the Divine Sword sect in Cold Cicada Ancient City was a complex of palaces with beautifully carved railings and eaves, adorned with exquisite relief sculptures, appearing quite refined. To Lu Yi's surprise, as soon as they arrived at the Divine Sword sect's residence, they were greeted with enthusiastic welcomes. The disciples of Divine Sword sect greeted Lu Yi with smiles and hellos. "Brother Lu, ha, I didn't expect you to come as well," said one. "Brother Lu, it's been a while, how have you been? I'm hosting a dinner at the Immortal Pavilion. Let's have a good gathering," said another. Lu Yi greeted the cultivators with a smile. Although he hadn't met many of these young cultivators, he supposed they had all seen him at the Sword Tao conference. Lu Yi also saw Wang Kaifeng, who wore a smile on his ordinarily unremarkable face and said, "Brother Lu, you've arrived even sooner than I expected." Lu Yi greeted him with a smile. Clearly, Wang Kaifeng knew that Jian Ruyu would inform Lu Yi about the heritage site here, but he did not expect them to arrive so quickly. At that moment, an elderly man with white hair walked out, smiling gently upon seeing Lu Yi. "I knew that girl Ruyu hurried away to inform you, young chap. You would definitely come here since this might be the land of the Immortal Sword sect's inheritance." Lu Yi had seen this elder before, one of the great Mahayana elders who had accompanied sect leader Xing Jiazhang. Jian Ruyu bowed and said, "I have seen Elder Ding Qing." Lu Yi also smiled and gave his respects. "I have seen Elder Ding." Elder Ding Qing, with a smile on his face, nodded slightly. He was quite fond of Lu Yi's sword talent and looked at Lu Yi with interest, asking with concern, "Have you made any progress in your Sword Tao realm since the Sword Tao conference?" Chapter 242, 126, Scaring Away with One Glance 3. Lu Yi smiled and said, "Indeed, there has been some improvement." Ding Qing looked at Lu Yi with some surprise. As a great Mahayana cultivator, Ding Qing also mastered the Sword Tao domain. He knew well the difficulty of comprehending such a domain. To have improved in just 10 years seemed too fast. However, thinking of Lu Yi's talent, he still believed it somewhat. He said with a smile, "That really is not bad. If you have some free time, you could visit the Divine Sword sect. Those old men and women at the Divine Sword Steel have been missing you. They mention you from time to time." Lu Yi had a full head of black lines as he looked at Ding Qing's expression, which seemed dubious no matter how he looked at it. Goodness, these elders are still relentless, wanting him to join the Divine Sword sect, huh? Lu Yi smiled broadly. "Thank you, Elder Ding. I will definitely visit." Although he knew that those elders were relentless, the Divine Sword Steel was truly enticing, containing immortal-level profundities of the Sword Tao. If Lu Yi could meditate there every day, his Sword Tao realm would certainly advance by leaps and bounds. It might not take long before he could comprehend his Sword Tao domain to perfection, and attempt to understand the Sword Tao laws from the Divine Sword Steel. Upon hearing this, Ding Qing was all smiles. "Very good, very good." Just then, a terrifying pressure emerged in the sky. as if a true dragon spanned the heavens. A loud shout rang out, "Lu Yi, I know you are here, come out and fight. This time I will let you taste defeat." In the sky, golden light flowed, vaguely forming a true dragon illusion. The illusion raised its head and roared fiercely, its formidable dragon Qi enveloping the entire cold cicada ancient city. The mortals and weaker cultivators within cold cicada ancient city trembled, struggling even to stand steadily, their faces filled with horror as they looked at the true dragon illusion in the sky. Other cultivators also looked up, each with a different expression. The members of the divine sword sect were all startled. Wang Kaifeng's face darkened as he gritted his teeth and said, "It's the heavenly dragon Saint's son." He was still unable to accept the fact that he had been defeated by the heavenly dragon Saint's son within 10 moves last time. Ding Qing glanced at the sky and sighed lightly. The heavenly dragon Holy Land has really invested heavily this time, apparently determined to cultivate an immortal. The natural talent of this heavenly dragon Saint's son is also very strong, and his current strength is no surprise. He turned to look at Lu Yi and smiled lightly. "However, what really surprises this old man is you, my boy. You made him taste defeat in the very first battle when he debuted, delaying his official advent by 5 years. Truly astonishing." Lu Yi smiled helplessly. "He came looking for trouble. I actually had no such intention at the time." Jian Ruyu glanced at the true dragon illusion sprawling across the sky, quite annoyed, and frowned. "This heavenly dragon Saint's son is way too arrogant. Junior brother, beat him up again. Teach him a lesson." Wang Kaifeng looked at Lu Yi, knowing full well that Lu Yi had defeated the heavenly dragon Saint's son before, and said, "The heavenly dragon Saint's son has advanced to the nascent soul realm. His strength has increased a lot. Brother Lu, don't underestimate him." Ding Qing looked at Lu Yi, ready to fight. "If you are, I'm here so you don't have to worry, just don't kill him." Lu Yi had been itching for a fight. Hearing Ding Qing's words, he reassured himself and nodded. "Since the heavenly dragon Saint's son wants a battle, I naturally cannot shy away." He turned into a beam of sword light and soared into the sky. The heavenly dragon Saint's son stood aloft, hands behind his back. The dragon Qi around him was much denser than the last time they met, and even his normally pitch-black eyes had turned golden yellow. Lu Yi could feel the terrifying power contained within the heavenly dragon Saint's son's body. With every movement, he could tear the heavens and the earth apart, already possessing some of the divine essence of a true dragon. Lu Yi sighed internally. Apart from his resources, the heavenly dragon Saint's son's own talent is actually not weak. Otherwise, he wouldn't have reached this extent. Lu Yi laughed. "Heavenly dragon Saint's son, it's been a while. It seems you haven't been disheartened." Upon seeing Lu Yi, the heavenly dragon Saint's son's pupils emitted brilliant golden light, and the dragon Qi around him formed into a dragon's head that roared silently at Lu Yi, its terrifying power fluctuating. Clearly, the heavenly dragon Saint's son was not calm. He looked at Lu Yi, a trace of golden dragon patterns flickering faintly on his forehead, and said, "Today, I will wash away my shame and definitely make you experience what I felt that day." Lu Yi smiled. "Then you'll have to try hard." Meanwhile, he muttered to himself, "I must defeat the heavenly dragon Saint's son." Task: defeat the heavenly dragon Saint's son. Reward: 5 drops of true dragon essence blood. Accept, yes, no. Lu Yi was startled, then inwardly thrilled. The task reward had increased unexpectedly. Originally, it was just 1 drop of true dragon essence blood. Now it had become a full 5 drops. But considering that last time the heavenly dragon Saint's son was only at the golden core realm, it made sense. Now he was at the nascent soul realm. He felt somewhat fortunate he hadn't killed him last time. It would have been too wasteful. While Lu Yi and the heavenly dragon Saint's son were conversing, many cultivators had gathered on the roofs of the buildings, looking up at the 2 figures in the sky. So that's the invincible heavenly dragon Saint's son of the younger generation in recent years. Truly extraordinary, his chi and blood transforming into a dragon, dominating the sky, even possessing some of the divine semblance of the supreme true dragon. The one opposite him is that innate sword Immortal, right? I heard he's a disciple from a small sect in Qingzhou. It's hard to imagine such a monstrous genius being born in Qingzhou. He actually defeated the heavenly dragon Saint's son when he was at the golden core realm. Both are king-level figures of the younger generation. This battle between the 2 will be significant. Yes, and people from the divine sword sect are here, along with the Tei Holy Land, Thunder Sound Immortal sect, takes you an immortal sect. So many holy lands, heirs, and saintesses have come. Indeed, the younger generation now all want to witness the outcome of this epic-making battle between these two. Not just the younger generation, even older generation cultivators are present. This great battle is not insignificant. Many cultivators discussed animatedly, all speculating on whether Lu Yi or the heavenly dragon Saint Sun would emerge victorious. Although Lu Yi won previously, at the Golden Core realm he had formed his sword Tao domain and was nearly invincible. Now that both were at the nascent soul realm, perhaps the heavenly dragon Saint Sun had new tricks up his sleeve and might not lose to the sword Tao domain. Everyone was filled with anticipation. In the sky, Lu Yi and the heavenly dragon Saint Sun stood facing each other. Then, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's dragon Qi surged as he reached out towards Lu Yi. He made the first move. They post now, edit later tilde. Chapter 243, 127, Suppressing the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun Again. Chapter 244, 127, Suppressing the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun Again 2. Chapter 244, Chapter 127, Suppressing the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun Again /2. Many cultivators were incredibly astonished. This added even greater pressure on the younger generation of prodigies. Whether it was Lu Yi or the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, their performances were too astonishing. As the heavenly dragon Saint Sun completed his second-level transformation, his aura surged, even possessing a hint of the true dragon's majesty. With his hands pushed out, his fleshly palms were like cast iron, extremely sturdy and indestructible. All the golden sword lights shattered, turning into scattered sparks of light. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun laughed loudly and strode towards Lu Yi, the void around him stirring as he moved. Lu Yi, if it weren't for that strike of yours that let me taste the bitterness of failure, I wouldn't have realized the heavenly dragon's second transformation so soon. Now, it's your turn to taste that flavor. Heavenly Dragon Fist. He roared, his right fist clenched, and dragon Qi flowed over his body like gold, thick and even capable of suppressing heaven and earth. He swung his fist out, the dragon Qi forming a giant dragon as if forged from gold, roaring mightily with a ferocious dragon head lunging at Lu Yi, aiming to engulf him. As the giant dragon moved, its terrifying pressure ravaged the area. Even the ancient city below felt immense pressure. If not for some older generation cultivators who intervened to stabilize the force, many of the buildings below would have been destroyed. Still, the remaining cultivators below felt their bodies weak as chaff and some even collapsed. The pressure was too overwhelming. Lu Yi, seeing this punch, was also a bit surprised. He hadn't expected the heavenly dragon Saint Sun to have such a move up his sleeve. In Lu Yi's eyes, a sword Tao map formed by the convergence of mysterious sword patterns appeared. A sword Tao map emerged in the void, its sharpness manifesting, seeming to hide supreme sword intent within it. The next moment, the sword patterns in the sword Tao map circulated, condensing into a 100-meter-long golden giant sword. As soon as the golden giant sword appeared, black cracks began to form in the void. The cultivators below felt as though sharp blades were pressed against their bodies, their hairs standing on end. Even the divinity transformation realm old generation cultivators were shrinking their pupils, stunned as they looked at the gold long sword engraved with numerous sword patterns. Unstoppable. Almost all the divinity transformation cultivators had this thought emerge in their minds. This golden long sword, sharp beyond measure, even they would likely struggle to contend with it. Even some cave void cultivators felt their expressions change. Such a level of sword Tao was like divine skills, even threatening them. Is this really a nascent soul cultivator? People were incredibly shocked. The moment the golden long sword appeared in the void, several aged figures emerged. They were supreme powerhouses hidden in the shadows, their auras as deep as the abyss. These cultivators were also stunned by the golden long sword, condensed by Lu Yi. A nascent soul cultivator forming such a level of sword Tao, it was too horrifying. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun also felt the terror of the long sword, his face changing before he roared again. Heavenly Dragon Fist. His body's spiritual energy flowed crazily, his face turning pale, but he tapped into his potential again to strike another heavenly dragon fist. Another golden giant dragon emerged, roaring as it charged towards Lu Yi. Lu Yi, with a calm expression, shouted crisply, "Cut!" The next moment, the golden sword light formed a beam of light, vanishing from the spot, instantly piercing through the golden giant dragon in front of it. As the beam of light passed through the golden dragon, the body of the dragon gradually transformed into golden light motes, disappearing into thin air. The sword light did not stop. It penetrated another golden giant dragon, similarly turning this dragon into a shower of golden sparks, falling like a golden rain. Under Luya's control, the golden beam continued to slash towards the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun roared, "I will not lose." The next moment, a golden long spear appeared in his hands, its staff entwined like a true dragon, the dragon's head sprouting a blade that carried an indescribable powerful pressure and supremely sharp edge. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun, holding the spear with both hands, roared, "Dragon battle heaven and earth." Roar! A roar echoed through heaven and earth. A true dragon illusion appeared behind the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, its head carrying a majestic gaze looking down at Lu Yi. The next moment, it transformed into a streak of flowing light that merged into the spear. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun swung the spear. His entire body shone with mysterious true dragon patterns as if clad in golden armor, a god of war decisively rushing towards the golden beam. Boom! The two collided, producing a violent rumbling. A sun-like brilliant golden light enveloped the world. Many cultivators with weak cultivation bases felt their eyes sting, tears streaming down. Unable to look directly, mortals merely saw a vast expanse of white, unable to distinguish directions, closing their eyes. Only cultivators of decent strength dared to watch the battle in the sky. Soon the light dissipated and people looked towards the sky, many eyes widened in shock. In the sky a pitch-black black hole appeared, an endless void formed by the collapse of space, desolate and empty. And the heavenly dragon Saint Sun had already been knocked flying, his body cracked, the dragon scale's armor had dissipated, his body drenched in blood as he fell straight down. With this clash, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun was severely injured and had no more combat power. Just as the heavenly dragon Saint Sun was about to hit the ground, a figure appeared, catching him. It was a very muscular old man, with long golden hair, his aura wild like a regal lion. The old man glanced at the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, then looked up at Lu Yi with a calm expression and nodded slightly. "Thank you, young friend, for showing mercy." Chapter 245, 127, Suppressing the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun Again 3. Chapter 245, Chapter 127, Suppressing the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun Again /3. Lu Yi smiled. "Elder, you're too kind. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun and I don't have any life-or-death grudge." The old man nodded slightly. "Young friend, you possess exceptional talent and embody the stature of a sword immortal. In the future, you should engage in more exchanges with Aotian." Aotian. What a great name, it screams, main character of an exhilarating novel. Lu Yi nodded with a smile. "Sure, I'll take the opportunity to spar with the heavenly dragon Saint Sun more often. It would be best to spar dozens of times every day. By then, he would have enough true dragon essence blood to enhance the strength of his physical body." The heavenly dragon Saint Sun was spitting out blood in great heaves, glaring at Lu Yi with an unyielding gaze. "Lu Yi, next time I will definitely win." Lu Yi nodded and smiled cheerfully. "Let us have another match next time." The elder spoke no more and left with the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. Lu Yi also returned to the Divine Sword Sect's residence. Jian Ruyu, Wang Kaifeng, and the other disciples of the Divine Sword Sect looked at Lu Yi with expressions of bizarre amazement. They were both shocked and incredulous. Jian Ruyu ran over to Lu Yi, exclaiming repeatedly and patting Lu Yi on the shoulder, "Junior brother, you're too incredible, aren't you? That heavenly dragon Saint Sun has been oppressing the younger generation of our eastern domain, leaving us gasping for air, yet you defeated him so easily." Wang Kaifeng's expression was complex as he sighed. "Brother Lu is blessed with unparalleled talent. We cannot compare." He had been defeated by the heavenly dragon Saint Sun within 10 moves before. Now, seeing how easily Lu Yi defeated him, one can only imagine the gap between them. The other disciples of the Divine Sword Sect also began talking. Lu Yi's strength was too formidable, even for these disciples of the Immortal sect. The shock was immense. Lu Yi chuckled. "That heavenly dragon Saint Sun is extraordinarily strong. It wasn't easy for me either. I had to use nearly all my strength." Truth be told, that final move from the heavenly dragon Saint Sun had indeed surprised Lu Yi a bit. The spear in his hand was probably no ordinary cultivation treasure. It likely belonged to the same level as his senior sister's cold glass sword, both high-grade treasures. Originally, Lu Yi intended to conserve some strength, but unexpectedly, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun managed to withstand so much of his sword intent. This was somewhat beyond Lu Yi's expectations. Ding Qing also came over, looking at Lu Yi with admiration. Your Sword Tao realm has improved since the Sword Tao conference. You are probably close to 20% now, right? The heavenly dragon Saint Sun even used a replica of the heavenly dragon spear, a sect guardian immortal artifact from the heavenly dragon Holy Land, yet he couldn't withstand a single strike from you. Lu Yi nodded with a smile. It's about 20% now. Ding Qing sighed deeply. Indeed, heroes emerge from the young. I have been practicing the sword Tao for over 10,000 years, and yet now I am not much stronger than you, this young fellow. Upon hearing this, Jian Ruyu and the others were astounded beyond belief, looking at Lu Yi. Although they knew that Lu Yi's sword Tao cultivation was strong, the gap between them was too great, and they didn't have a clear understanding of it. But now, even their elder, a great Mahayana cultivator and a formidable sword cultivator, said his sword Tao cultivation was not much stronger than Lu Yi's. One had cultivated for 10,000 years, the other less than 100. One was a great Mahayana cultivator, the other just broke through to the nascent soul realm. The fact that their sword Tao realms were so close shocked the disciples of the divine sword sect. It was as if Lu Yi already belonged to a category beyond the younger generation. Lu Yi and the others chatted for a while, and afterward, each went back to rest. After all, the ruins had not yet opened. The major forces were still discussing matters, and it wasn't the time to enter the ruins. That day, the earth-shattering battle between Lu Yi and the heavenly dragon Saint Sun spread at an incredible speed. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun had cultivated the heavenly dragon's second transformation while in the nascent soul realm, and even used a replica of the sect guardian immortal artifact, the heavenly dragon spear, from the heavenly dragon Holy Land, but still lost under Lu Yi's sword. It can even be said that it was a miserable defeat. Lu Yi had seriously wounded the heavenly dragon Saint Sun with a single strike without even using a cultivation treasure. And the heavenly dragon Saint Sun had used a replica of the heavenly dragon spear that was also of high-grade treasure quality. The gap between the two was very apparent. If the heavenly dragon Saint Sun could be considered the pinnacle figure of the younger generation in the Eastern domain, then Lu Yi could be deemed to stand in a league of his own among his peers in the Eastern domain. In no time, the name Lu Yi spread throughout the Eastern domain, with nearly every cultivator discussing this sensational battle of the younger generation. Keep in mind, their attacks even shattered the void. Such destructive power is exceedingly rare even among divinity transformation cultivators. Lu Yi's fame even began to spread to other domains. Throughout this, Lu Yi himself was unconcerned. Upon returning to his room, he happily collected his reward. Full 5 drops of true dragon essence blood. This was the essence blood of an immortal beast. Even tribulation crossing great powers would be envious if it were put on the market. Lu Yi didn't use it immediately, as there were too many powerful individuals here, and he worried that using it would create too noticeable a disturbance and attract attention. Besides, the ruins were about to open. Lu Yi could not enter seclusion now, lest he miss the opening of the ruins. Early the next day, as soon as Lu Yi left his residence, he heard that Feng Buming and some genius disciples of the Emperor's Sword Sect had come to invite him to a feast. Feng Buming greeted Lu Yi, having already booked a lavish banquet at the Immortal Pavilion. As everyone toasted and the atmosphere warmed, Feng Buming raised his glass to Lu Yi. Brother Lu has peerless talent and astonishing combat prowess. Your battle yesterday was truly gratifying to witness. The genius sword cultivator Lin Yu from the Emperor's Sword Sect also laughed heartily and admired. Exactly, Brother Lu is too formidable. That heavenly dragon Saint Sun was incredibly arrogant. He came to our Emperor's Sword Sect 2 years ago and caused quite a stir. It's about time he got what he deserved. Back then, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun had defeated many talents of the Emperor's Sword Sect, and Lin Yu was suppressed by a single strike, nearly losing his sword heart, naturally harboring resentment towards the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. Feng Buming lamented, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun does indeed possess astonishing strength. I was defeated by his 8 punches, and the memory is still vivid. Feng Buming still felt a rib aching faintly, a remnant injury from that time. Wang Kaifeng clinked glasses with Feng Buming, laughing. I'm a bit better. I lasted 10 punches. Feng Buming's expression stiffened, and he said speechlessly, if I had fought desperately, I would also have survived 10 punches. It's the pot calling the kettle black. Seeing the two quarrel, Lu Yi smiled helplessly and asked, by the way, what's the situation with the ruins now? When will they open? Having just arrived, Lu Yi hadn't gone to see the location of the ruins and was very curious about when he could enter. After all, this was related to the future cultivation methods he could acquire. Chapter 246, 128 Immortal Array Shatters 600 Monthly Ticket Bonus Chapter. Chapter 246, Chapter 128 Immortal Array Shatters 600 Monthly Ticket Bonus Chapter. I heard that the leaders of the Immortal Sect Holy Land and various great sects are discussing this matter. There hasn't been a result yet, but it should be soon, Wang Kaifeng said. Feng Buming spoke. This heritage relic probably contains many treasures. It's highly regarded by all the major powers. Moreover, outside the relic, there are still array patterns that have not disappeared. Those array patterns are terrifying, almost akin to the sect protection array of the Immortal Sect Holy Land. Even the mightiest array masters in the world might need several years to break through them. Upon hearing this, Lu Yi slightly furrowed his brows. Does that mean we have to wait for several years? That won't be necessary, Wang Kaifeng explained. This formation has likely experienced the ravages of time and has been left unmaintained, developing faults. It probably won't be long before it collapses on its own. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to discover the existence of this relic here. Reassured by these words, Lu Yi relaxed. If he really had to stay here for a few years, he wouldn't be able to endure it. The group joked and drank merrily until late into the night before returning. In the following days, the number of cultivators in Cold Cicada Ancient City kept increasing. After all, the news about the relic had spread throughout the entire eastern domain. More and more cultivators came to try their luck. Powerful sects from across the entire eastern domain sent people. From time to time, Lu Yi could sense extremely formidable and fearsome auras, all belonging to great cultivators beyond the cave void stage. One day, a golden streak of light soared across the sky and arrived at Cold Cicada Ancient City, attracting the attention of many cultivators. It was a chariot drawn by a golden exotic beast resembling a Kilin. Its strength alone was terrifying, at the level of the divinity transformation realm. Only true major forces similar to the Immortal Sect Holy Land would possess such chariots. Divine Sword Sect's cultivators like Jian Ruyu Lu Yi, Ding Qing were also alerted. Watching the slowly descending chariot in the sky, Ding Qing's brows furrowed, somberly saying, a chariot pulled by 4 golden-scaled beasts, a significant figure from the Central Domain's Heavenly Palace has arrived. I didn't expect even the Central Domain to send someone. This could be troublesome. Heavenly Palace, isn't that one of the oldest Immortal Sect Holy Lands? Lu Yi was greatly surprised. Across the entire Tiananmen, including the Northeast, Southwest, Central, and the 5 domains, each domain possesses top-tier forces similar to the Immortal Sect Holy Lands, which have produced immortals. The Heavenly Palace is a top-tier colossal entity in the entire Central Domain, reportedly with a legacy spanning over 10 million years. What does that mean? In his previous life, humanity had not even appeared on Earth yet. In this world, if the weakest immortal could live 1,000,000 years, then the Heavenly Palace thriving for over 10 million years implies that there are at least 10 or more immortals existence. This is just the weakest immortal. Who knows whether the Heavenly Palace has even stronger immortals? Such a long-standing legacy of the Immortal Sect Holy Land. One can only imagine how formidable it is. All the Immortal Sect Holy Lands in the Eastern Domain were alarmed and slightly anxious. That very night, many extremely formidable auras approached the location of the Heavenly Palace. After a round of discussions, both sides calmed down. During the nights of those few days, a burst of golden light suddenly flared outside Cold Cicada Ancient City. Seated cross-legged in his room, Lu Yi's nascent soul above which floated the immortal sword seed in his dantian began to tremble. The immortal sword seed was surrounded by circling immortal Tao patterns, emitting an exceedingly mysterious aura. Lu Yi was startled and abruptly opened his eyes. He stepped forward, disappearing from the room, and appeared in the sky. In the night sky, apart from Lu Yi, one by one, the cultivators continued to appear, floating in the air, all having been awakened by the disturbance. These cultivators were all exceptionally strong, with terrifying sensing abilities, having detected the anomaly at the first instance. When Lu Yi appeared in the air, he was swept over by several terrifying spiritual powers. Ding Qing appeared beside Lu Yi, and seeing him, he was slightly surprised. "Kiddo Lu, I didn't expect your perception to be so sharp to notice so quickly." Lu Yi responded with a smile. "It was just a slight sensing." Looking up into the distance, at the edge of the sky outside cold Cicada Ancient City, the golden light continued to flicker. The immortal sword seed inside Lu Yi vibrated even more intensely. He could be sure that was where the immortal sword sect relic lay. Lu Yi felt a bit excited, thinking that there might be hope to obtain the complete immortal sword scripture. He asked with some curiosity, "Elder Ding, is that the direction of the relic?" Ding Qing nodded, his expression grave. "That is the direction of the relic. The formation is likely about to fail soon given the current chaos and surge of spiritual energy causing this situation." Lu Yi nodded slightly, his anticipation growing further. Before long, more and more cultivators appeared, including Jian Ruyu, Wang Kaifeng, and others, all looking towards that distant region flickering with golden light, their eyes filled with anticipation. Even many cultivators took to the skies, heading towards that direction to check on the situation. This night was destined to be a sleepless one. The next morning, news came from the relic area. The formation was about to collapse. Ding Qing made a prompt decision, leading the Divine Sword Sect's cultivators, including Lu Yi, towards the direction of the relic. Not only them, but cultivators from the Emperor's Sword Sect, Heavenly Dragon Holy Land, and other powerful sects also set out towards the relic. Additionally, a number of loose cultivators also planned to enter. The relic area was not far from cold Cicada Ancient City, just a few hundred kilometers away, and with their speed, it didn't take long to reach there. The location of the relic was a desolate wilderness. On a small hill in the wilderness, densely packed in complex array patterns filled the sky, shimmering with golden light. Chapter 247, 128 Immortal Array Shatters 600 Monthly Ticket Bonus Chapter 2. Chapter 247, Chapter 128 Immortal Array Shatters 600 Monthly Ticket Bonus Chapter /2. All cultivators were now waiting outside the array patterns, not daring to approach. Lu Yi and the others, upon arriving, also did not approach. The complex array patterns in the sky flickered uncertainly, as if they might extinguish at any moment. Jian Ruyu was somewhat eager to try. "When can we go in?" Wang Kaifeng and the disciples of the Divine Sword Sect also looked towards Ding Qing. Ding Qing was very steady, gazing at the distant array patterns as he slowly uttered a word, "Wait." Apart from them, cultivators from all directions were itching to move forward, with some loose cultivators even starting to edge closer bit by bit. Unlike the disciples of Immortal Sect Holy Lands and other sects, they had to strive for cultivation resources on their own. With the treasure right in front of their eyes, even if the sacred land Immortal sects could remain calm, they could not. They had to take the risk. If they succeeded, obtaining even the slightest bit of treasure left behind from an ancient immortal sect would be enough for them to rise. Just then, a bird flew across the sky and entered the array pattern. A flash of golden light erupted within the formation, and the bird instantly transformed into a mist of blood, almost without anyone seeing how it happened. This caused those loose cultivators who had been eager to try to suddenly freeze, as they silently retreated one by one, not daring to be the first to make a move. The waiting time was very quiet. Lu Yi looked around, noticing the direction of the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land, where the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun was once again bouncing energetically beside the golden-haired elder. The Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun, with his extraordinary spiritual sense, noticed Lu Yi and gave him a cold stare before looking away. Lu Yi continued to survey the area. In the direction of the Tei Holy Land stood a young man in a white robe, standing with his hands behind his back as if blending with the heavenly Tao. He exuded a sense of natural Taoist skill. He was merely standing there, yet he appeared somewhat ethereal. He was the saint son of Tei Holy Land. Lu Yi could feel his strong Tao nature and that his nascent soul must be formidable, promising a bright future. However, when it came to the power contained within him, he seemed somewhat less than the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun. In front of the Thunder Sound Immortal Sect was a woman in a purple dress floating in the air. She was surrounded by wisps of purple radiant light, making it difficult to see her face clearly. Nevertheless, Her graceful figure and skin as white as jade made one recognize her as a peerless beauty at first glance. Luya then looked towards other directions, and soon his expression revealed a hint of surprise. Near the western side of the array patterns, a group of cultivators dressed in cyan robes attracted attention, particularly a man and a woman at the forefront. The man was exceptionally handsome with a gentle smile on his face. He stood with his hands behind his back, his smile bright like the boy next door. However, this man had mysterious Tao light circling around him, giving off a sense of heavenly Tao pressure, commanding an imposing atmosphere without anger. The woman was breathtakingly beautiful, a prominent figure of unparalleled beauty. Her expression was proud, and her demeanor carried an unrivaled arrogance. It was extremely rare to see such a demeanor in a woman. What surprised Lu Yu was not their demeanor, but the strength contained within them, which even astonished him. They were probably not weaker than the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, perhaps even stronger by a bit. The Saint Sun and Saintess of the heavenly palace. Lu Yu understood the situation immediately. These two must be disciples of the heavenly palace. Only a terrifying sacred land immortal sect with a heritage lasting for countless millennia could have such a foundation and train beings akin to the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. With a history of countless years, the immortals behind the heavenly palace must be formidable, possessing resources beyond ordinary imagination. Even among sacred land immortal sects, they were definitely among the top echelon. Those two exceptional geniuses also had extraordinary talents and spiritual senses. They lifted their heads and looked towards Lu Yi. The heavenly palace Saint Sun gave Lu Yi a brilliant smile, while the saintess merely glanced at him before retracting her gaze. Lu Yi also shifted his gaze away. At that moment, the array patterns in the sky suddenly flickered, emitting strands of golden light. Many cultivators immediately became excited. The array patterns are about to shatter. This is great. After waiting so long, we can finally go in. The array patterns kept flickering, their speed of flickering increasing rapidly, with the surrounding spiritual energy also starting to become violent. Cultivators with strong cultivation bases sensed that something was amiss. Someone shouted lowly, "There's danger, retreat quickly." The elders of the sacred land immortal sects promptly swept up everyone with a wave of their sleeve, retreating backwards. Boom! The rumbling sound erupted as the storm caused by the shattering array swept outwards. Strands of golden light swept in all directions, shaking the ground violently and creating fissures that spread from the small hillocks outwards. Cultivators who had not managed to retreat in time were swept over by the golden light, turning into mists of blood and vanishing from sight. Lu Yi saw a cultivator at the cave void realm extinguished, without even a whimper, as the golden light passed over him. His scalp tingled. The protective sect formation of the immortal sect Holy Land was indeed formidable. Even in its broken state, the aftermath was terrifying. If he had been caught in it, he would have certainly perished. The aftermath of the shattered array swept for a long while, until the wilderness was left in shambles, and the ground bore the marks of the light columns that seemed to fade gradually. The array patterns in the sky dimmed completely, disappearing bit by bit as if erased by someone, vanishing from sight. The small hillock within the array patterns also began to disappear slowly, revealing a massive spatial portal in its place. Within the spatial portal flowed the Xianxia, carrying an unimaginable pressure, astonishing to all. This is a small world created by opening up the void. What a grand feat! Indeed, it's the legacy of an immortal sect. An old man from the Taixuan immortal sect exclaimed in amazement. Chapter 248. 128 Immortal Array Shatters 600 Monthly Ticket Bonus Chapter 3. Chapter 248. Chapter 128 Immortal Array Shatters 600 Monthly Ticket Bonus Chapter /3. Hearing this, the eyes of the other cultivators shone brightly. Immediately, some cultivators rushed out and flew towards the space portal. These cultivators were not strong, mostly at the nascent soul realm or even lower. No one stopped them. Even though there were people from the immortal sect Holy Land present, none took action. Everyone let them go in. Lu Yi raised his eyebrows, saw the calm expressions of Ding Qing and other cultivators, and then understood. The situation inside the heritage ruins was uncertain, and they did not know what was inside. They needed people to scout. And those loose cultivators needed to seize every small opportunity to become stronger. The two sides had an unspoken agreement. Just then, screams suddenly came from inside the space portal, immensely mournful, accompanied by terrifying fluctuations of spiritual energy that shook the Xuanhuang Qi near the portal. Soon, cultivators rushed out covered in blood. All array patterns inside, one wrong step and it's death without life. All dead, none who went deeper survived. A nascent soul cultivator, pale-faced, stumbled out and then flew off into the distance without stopping. Clearly, he thought there was nothing to gain by staying. Soon, the screams inside calmed down, and no one else rushed out anymore. Then Ding Qing spoke, "I'll go in first, you guys follow slowly." As he spoke, Ding Qing led a few elders from the Divine Sword sect and transformed into streaks of light, rushing into the space portal. Not just them, other strong cultivators from the Immortal sect Holy Lands also soared into the sky and entered the portal. Since it was confirmed that this was very likely a legacy memory of the Immortal sect, no major power wanted to fall behind. Even for the Immortal sect Holy Land, obtaining this inheritance would be a great gain. Seeing all the strong ones rush in first, other cultivators also started moving, flying towards the inside. Lu Yi, Jian Ruyu, Wang Kaifeng, and other disciples from the Divine Sword sect exchanged looks and smiled. "Let's go in too." One clever disciple from the Divine Sword sect spoke up, "Brother Lu is unrivaled, we should follow you." Jian Ruyu laughed angrily, "Doesn't the Divine Sword sect have any backbone?" A female cultivator from the Divine Sword sect looked surprised at Jian Ruyu. "Senior sister Ruyu, aren't you going to act together with brother Lu?" Jian Ruyu replied, "It's different for me, Lu Yi is my junior brother, of course I have to go with him." Wang Kaifeng and others. Lu Yi smiled helplessly, "Let's all go in together." Lu Yi had a good relationship with the Divine Sword sect, and if he could lead them, he naturally wouldn't refuse. They flew towards the space portal. Before entering, Lu Yi thought of something, musing to himself, "I want to explore this relic." Task: explore the ruins. Rewards depend on the range of exploration. Accept task, yes, no. There was indeed a task. Lu Yi accepted the task. Just then, Feng Bumming led a group of cultivators from the Emperor's Sword sect towards Lu Yi. Lin Yu chuckled, "Brother Lu, shall we act together?" Feng Bumming replied calmly, "The more people, the safer." Seeing the cultivators from the Emperor's Sword sect come over, the disciples of the Divine Sword sect all scowled, murmuring about bad luck. Lu Yi, being unmatched in combat among his peers, planned to have others latch onto him for protection, but did not expect the Emperor's Sword sect's disciples to have the same idea. How shameless. Lu Yi didn't really have any objections to him. Leading one group or two made no difference. It had no impact on him. Thus, the disciples from two sects joined together. This made many other sect disciples look sideways. The disciples from the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land flew over, and the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun glanced at Wang Kaifeng and Feng Bumming, scoffing coldly. Trash is trash, needing others to survive. This made Wang Kaifeng, Feng Bumming, and the disciples from both sects bristle, glaring angrily at the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun. However, the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun didn't care about their looks at all, staring straight at Lu Yi and challenged, "Lu Yi, how about we compete again? Let's see who can get more from the ruins." Lu Yi was taken aback, not expecting a task to arrive so conveniently. This Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun was really playing right into his hands. Lu Yi mused to himself, "I want to outdo the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun in obtaining more from the ruins." Task: outdo the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun in obtaining more from the ruins. Reward: the Great Mahayana Secret Skill, Dragon Flying Phoenix Chant. Accept task, yes, no. Indeed a task, and it's a Great Mahayana Secret Skill. Lu Yi, feeling thrilled, promptly accepted the task. He now found the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun very pleasant, smiling as he spoke, "Since you want to compete, then let's compete." The Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun sneered, and then turned, leading his fellow junior brothers and sisters into the space portal. Seeing the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun enter, Feng Bumming spat scornfully, "Damn it, that bastard has his eyes on top of his head." Wang Kaifeng was usually calm, but now he was slightly icy, snorting, "Brother Lu, you should have made a bet with him. Definitely could have put that guy in his place." Lu Yi smiled and replied, "Let it be, let's go in." Seeing Lu Yi and others entering, disciples from other Immortal sect Holy Lands were somewhat tempted to follow. However, none from the other Holy Lands knew Lu Yi well enough and couldn't put aside their pride, so they simply entered on their own. The disciples from the heavenly palace were very low-key, also calmly entering. After entering the space portal, Lu Yi found themselves on a vast plaza where all the newly arrived cultivators were gathered. The plaza was large. Even though tens of thousands of cultivators were here, it still appeared very spacious. The surroundings of the plaza were covered with golden walls, engraved with dense array patterns, and there were 4 passages on the walls, unknown where they led. Aside from the walls, even the ground was covered in dense array patterns. In the distance on the plaza, there were pools of fresh blood, likely from the cultivators who had rushed in earlier. This made everyone become solemn. Update first, correct later tilde. Chapter 249, 129. A single finger alters the killing array. Chapter 249. Chapter 129. A single finger alters the killing array. It is indeed the relic of an immortal sect. All the walls and floors here contain constant gold, and the array patterns are so complex, said the saint son of the Taixuan immortal sect, frowning slightly and speaking with a hint of shock. Now that we've arrived, everyone, it's time to rely on your true capabilities, the saint son of the Tei Holy Land said with a slight smile. He walked out with a group of disciples from the Tei Holy Land, not triggering any array patterns, and went straight into a passageway. Many were surprised to witness this scene. He didn't trigger a single array pattern. This Tei Saint Son has a profound mastery of array Tao. Tei Holy Land seeks enlightenment from heaven and earth with a deep understanding of the natural array patterns. As the Saint Son, he must have achieved extraordinary accomplishments in this Tao. As the Tei Saint Son left, other cultivators felt an urgency, stepping forward one after another. A loose cultivator accidentally triggered an array pattern which flashed with light, and a golden beam shot out, vaporizing him on the spot, chilling the hearts of the others. Another flash of sword light slashed towards a cultivator from the Thunder Sound Holy Land, who had inadvertently triggered an array pattern. Just then the Thunder Sound Saintess extended her hand, and thunder light coalesced into Tao patterns, blocking the sword light. Boom! The sword light was annihilated, and the Tao patterns dissipated along with it. Upon seeing this, Wang Kaifeng breathed a sigh of relief and said, "This place is the outer periphery of the ruins. The power of the formation isn't very strong, probably at the nascent soul realm level." Lin Yu nodded. No wonder a few of the nascent soul cultivators from the first group to enter managed to escape. If it was the power of the nascent soul level, then nascent soul cultivators indeed had a good chance of escaping. The Thunder Sound Saintess had a handsome man walk ahead. He seemed to be adept in formations as well. Under his guidance, their group maneuvered through the area and quickly entered a passage. The cultivators of the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land were rather impetuous. The Heavenly Dragon Saint Son stood with his hands behind his back, his expression cold, moving forward without a care. Wherever he went, beams of golden sword light shot out and struck him, failing to stir even the slightest ripple. His formidable physical body bore all the attacks from the array patterns, leaving many cultivators speechless, and their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Lu Yi saw that the cultivators from the Heavenly Palace were also calm as they stepped out, smoothly passing through the array patterns and entering a passage. Besides them, there were several other powerful cultivators from the Divinity Transformation Realm, and even the Cave Void Realm among the crowd. Although they were not as powerful as the Great Mahayana and Unification Great Powers that entered earlier, their strength was still astonishing. With their own power they too swept through, quickly entering the various passageways. Those remaining were mostly nascent soul realm cultivators, or even those below the nascent soul realm level. Jian Ruyu, after seeing everyone move ahead, turned to Lu Yi and asked, "Junior brother, which way shall we go?" Lu Yi had already made up his mind upon entering the ruins. The immortal sword seed within him vibrated even more intensely. The immortal sword patterns on the immortal sword seed flickered unpredictably, as if about to emerge. Above Lu Yi's nascent soul, the immortal sword pattern even began to rotate. Eventually, the tip of the immortal sword pattern pointed towards one of the passageways. Lu Yi's eyes flashed. Although he felt that this was the inheritance land left by the immortal sword sect, he was still surprised. The immortal sect is truly remarkable, able to cause cultivators who practice the immortal sword scripture to resonate. Such a method is truly profound. He smiled and said, "Follow me." Lu Yu walked casually, turning this way and that, heading towards a passageway. No formation was triggered along the way, and everything was very calm. This left Jian Ruyu and the others utterly amazed. Feng Buming asked in astonishment, "Brother Lu, are you also skilled in formation Tao?" Lu Yi smiled. "I know a little. I tend to read about other skills during my spare time to pass the time." Everyone was at a loss for words. After all, these formations were set by the Immortal sect, and even though they were not as secretive as the sect protection array outside, they were still powerful enough that cultivators of the nascent soul realm would find difficult to bypass. Yet, Lu Yi saw through them so easily, with just some spare time studying. What about those cultivators who specialized in formation Tao? Jian Ruyu spoke with a smile. "I'm curious about what the disciples of the Tei Holy Land would think if they heard Junior Brother's words." The disciples from the other two sects laughed along. Everyone knew that the Tei Holy Land specialized in formation Tao, entering the path through formations with an array Tao master in every generation. Lu Yi's performance was already on par with an ordinary Tei Holy Land disciple, yet he was primarily a sword cultivator. With Lu Yi leading the way, the vast array of array patterns no longer posed a problem to them, and the group easily entered a passageway and ventured deeper. There were still many cultivators who came in with Lu Yi and others. Some were loose cultivators, some were sect disciples. They mostly teamed up or used brute force to fight their way through or followed an expert in formation Tao to bypass the killing arrays, moving step by step. Lu Yi's mastery of formation Tao was extremely strong. Over the years, whenever he had time, he would read books on formation Tao. He had read all the books on formations in the White Cloud sect, and with the help of Enlightenment Tea and Task Rewards, he had comprehended and thoroughly understood all formation Tao books, even cultivating them to an extreme level. In addition, there were array patterns obtained from various trial tower tasks that Lu Yi also comprehended to the extreme level. Chapter 250, 129, Transforming the Killing Array with a Single Finger 2. Chapter 250, Chapter 129, Transforming the Killing Array with a Single Finger /2. At this moment, Lu Yi wasn't entirely clear on how strong his formation skills were. However, the formations on the ground and the walls were transparent to Lu Yi at a glance, as simple as the equation 1 + 1 = 2, hardly requiring any effort to calculate. He walked with ease, and before long he had left the other cultivators behind, leading the disciples of the Divine Sword Sect and the Emperor Sword Sect. The other cultivators naturally witnessed this scene and were incredibly shocked. Is that the innate sword Immortal? He walked through so easily, without triggering any killing arrays. Could it be that he has also mastered Array Tao? He must have mastered Array Tao. The speed at which he sees through killing arrays is too fast, far surpassing us. Although the formations here are nothing compared to the sect protection array of the Immortal sect, they are still extraordinary, yet he doesn't even pause. Is he even human? His sword Tao realm might be comparable to a great Mahayana, but his array Tao realm is also this terrifying. The cultivators discussed among themselves. Some of the more astute cultivators caught on to something, their eyes flickering as they followed the path walked by Lu Yi. One by one, the cultivators closely followed the group led by Lu Yi, keeping silent and simply foregoing their own analysis of the formation. Seeing the cultivators behind them act this way, the brows of the disciples from both the Divine Sword Sect and the Emperor Sword Sect furrowed. A disciple from the Divine Sword Sect looked coldly at the cultivators following behind and said, "What does it mean for you to follow us? If you keep it up, don't blame us for not being polite." Some loose cultivators, intimidated by the icy gaze of the Divine Sword Sect disciple, showed signs of backing off. At this moment, a young nascent soul cultivator with a frown said, "Aren't you being too domineering, Divine Sword Sect? This path doesn't belong to you. Do you also get to dictate where we go?" The young cultivator wore a robe adorned with patterns of gentle breezes and was followed by quite a few cultivators. It's a disciple from the Wind Origin sect. Just like the Emperor Sword Sect, the Wind Origin sect was one of the top sects in the Eastern Domain, with only a small gap compared to the Immortal sect Holy Lands, the biggest difference being in heritage. After all, these top sects had never produced an Immortal. When the Wind Origin sect disciples spoke up, the loose cultivators' minds became active, and they all began to speak. "Exactly, you Divine Sword Sect are being too overbearing. Can an Immortal sect behave so tyrannically? This path isn't yours to claim. Aren't you also following Taoist Lu to walk safely? What difference is there between you and us? Yes. The faces of the Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect cultivators grew cold. Feng Buming's sword manifested in his hand, the grand and majestic Emperor sword intent flowing, turning into sword light that charged towards the leading Wind Origin Sect disciple. By nature domineering and ruthless, he was completely different from his gentleness when facing Lu Yi. Without a second word, he attacked. Seeing this, the expression of the Wind Origin Sect disciple became grave, and the leading cultivator reached out his hand. Wisps of breeze gathered, forming vortexes in the air that resisted the Emperor's sword intent, slowly grinding it away to nothing. The leading disciple of the Wind Origin Sect, with a cold look on his face, addressed Feng Buming. "Feng Buming, do you want to fight me?" Feng Buming sneered, "Feng Bui, it's you who are shameless. What's our relationship with Brother Lu? And you? You have no relation to Brother Lu, so what right do you have to follow?" At this time Wang Kaifeng also approached slowly, sword in hand, looking at Feng Bui. "Feng Bui, are you looking to start a fight with us?" Spiritual energy flowed and sword intent surged among the Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect disciples. Seeing this, Feng Bui's expression changed. Though there were many powerful cultivators here, most were loose cultivators and might not be a match for the disciples of the Divine Sword Sect and the Emperor Sword Sect. Besides, there was the unfathomable Lu Yi right. Feng Bui's expression shifted, and then he snorted coldly, "Fine, we won't follow." Only then did Wang Kaifeng and Feng Buming calm down, and along with the other disciples from the Divine Sword Sect and the Emperor Sword Sect, they continued to follow Lu Yi forward. Lu Yi was very calm. Even if those people caught up with him, it had no impact. He wasn't too concerned about it. His only goal was the complete cultivation technique of the Immortal Sword Scripture. He led the group at a swift pace, almost as if he were charging directly through. The corridor was wide, hundreds of meters across, and its length was difficult to estimate. From time to time, there would be turns, as well as numerous branching paths with unknown destinations, resembling a massive maze. Lu Yi had the Immortal Sword Seed guiding him, making his journey an easy one as he moved towards the direction the Sword Seed pointed. Soon, they delved deeply enough that they saw Divinity Transformation Realm cultivators ahead, moving about. It was a middle-aged man with a strong aura, but his skills in formation were probably lacking as he triggered killing arrays every few steps. Pillars of light and sword light swept past repeatedly, forcing him to stop and defend against them. The power of the sword light and pillars was extremely formidable, causing even Feng Buming and Wang Kaifeng to show signs of concern. The power of this killing array, it's so much stronger than before. Indeed, this power must already be at the Divinity Transformation Realm. The earlier path certainly wasn't this strong. Jian Ruyu thought of something and looked towards Lu Yi with a smile. "Throughout our journey, we have never triggered any killing arrays without even noticing this point." The other disciples also came to their senses and looked towards Lu Yi. Lu Yi said with a smile, "The formations here are a bit more complex than the ones outside. If I'm not wrong, the deeper we go, the more complex the formations will become." Chapter 251, 129, Changing the Killing Array with One Finger 3. Chapter 251, Chapter 129, Changing the Killing Array with One Finger /3. The crowd, upon hearing his words, all wore faces of admiration. Even within the Divinity Transformation Array, Brother Lu moves as if on level ground. Such mastery over Array Tao truly astonishes. Indeed, even if placed in Tei Holy Land, he would be among the most outstanding of the younger disciples. Lu Yi could only smile wryly. "Fellow cultivators, please stop flattering me. I only understand a little bit." At that moment, a disciple from Divine Sword Sect exclaimed, "Quick, look over there." The crowd was startled and turned to look. Before the Divinity Transformation cultivator on one side of the corridor, there lay some shattered metal arms, thighs, and torsos, with the broken edges flickering with faint dark green light. "Is that green steel gold? This is a heavenly material capable of forging top-grade magic artifacts. If there's a master forger, perhaps even a low-grade treasure could be created. What a fine item. Those metal bodies, are they puppets made of green steel gold? As expected of an immortal sect, such a grand gesture. It must have been the elders who entered earlier that shattered them. These heavenly materials and earthly treasures are of little use to them. Probably nobody cares about the remnants." There was excited chatter among the crowd, with faces full of surprise and delight. For those of the Unification Realm and Great Success Realm, these were indeed not considered valuables, but for those who were only at most at the Nascent Soul Realm, and even some at the Golden Core Realm, these were rare treasures. With more green steel gold, they could even forge a low-grade treasure. Even among the disciples of the Immortal sect Holy Land, very few at the Nascent Soul Realm would possess a low-grade artifact. Seeing the crowd's excitement, Luya felt no stirring in his heart. His interspatial ring held a vast amount of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, including plenty of green steel gold, all obtained from various tasks. If it were before these items lying on the road, he probably wouldn't have even noticed. Nevertheless, seeing people like Jian Ryu so thrilled, Luya also smiled. Well then, go and get them. Luya stepped forward and walked towards that area. Jian Ryu and the others followed him. In his heart, Luya mulled over the fact that he owned too many heavenly materials and earthly treasures. To be honest, keeping them was of no use to him, so he might as well take the opportunity to practice artifact refining and consume these riches. Otherwise, auctioning them off, Luya found it a hassle. After all, he was not lacking in resources. It might be better to use them for himself, to pass the time, and who knows, he might improve his artifact refining skill in the process. Thinking this, Luya planned to give it a try when he got back. Just then the Divinity Transformation Cultivator shouted, "You youngsters, this green steel gold was seen by me first. How could you contend for it?" The crowd was taken aback, and then Feng Bumming laughed. "Elder, you are not correct in saying this. This green steel gold is unclaimed. It cannot simply belong to you based on your word alone." "Exactly, if whoever sees it first owns it, then if I claim to have seen this ruin first, does that make it all mine?" Jian Ryu also frowned. Unclaimed treasures naturally belong to those who first have the ability to obtain them. The Divinity Transformation Cultivator cast them a cold glance, but on seeing Luya, his expression changed and he became solemn. The innate sword Immortal Luya. Luya hadn't expected to receive such a nickname and was momentarily stunned. Then he smiled and greeted, "Elder." The Divinity Transformation Cultivator was wary, feeling a deep apprehension for the strength Luya had demonstrated earlier, and spoke, "Very well. Then it's a matter of who can grab it first." The cultivator's spiritual energy swirled around him, spitting out a black shield in front of his body, planning to forcefully take the green steel gold. He rushed out, and after a mere couple of steps, he was blasted with sword light falling upon his shield, causing him to shudder and pause. Once the sword light abated, he moved forward again. Although he often triggered the killing array, he still moved towards the green steel gold with great speed. Upon seeing this, Feng Bumming and the others showed subtle shifts in expression. "Brother Lu, we need to be quick." Luya just smiled, "No need to worry." He stepped out, winding quickly, leading the group past, soon catching up to the Divinity Transformation Cultivator who was originally ahead. Seeing this, the Divinity Transformation Cultivator's eyes nearly popped out of his head, as he had never expected Luya to possess such prowess in Array Tao. As the green steel gold lay not too far away, naturally, the Divinity Transformation Cultivator was reluctant to give up. He let out a low shout, spread his hand, and pushed a palm towards Luya and the others. A green palm grew with the wind, turning into a handprint dozens of meters wide, rushing towards them with a terrifying and ferocious aura. This was possible because the buildings all contained constant gold, coupled with the strengthening of array patterns. Otherwise, an ordinary underground palace might have been already shattered and cracked. Seeing the massive palm, Luya raised an eyebrow. Sword intent flowed around him, shooting out golden sword lights that shattered the giant palm. At this moment, the Divinity Transformation Cultivator was already less than 100 meters from the green steel gold, as he once again triggered the killing array. A golden pillar of light shot out towards the Divinity Transformation Cultivator. The Divinity Transformation Cultivator calmly moved his shield to block. Just then Luya chuckled, pointing a finger. The killing array's array patterns beneath the Divinity Transformation Cultivator flickered, and the next moment the light pillar's aura soared, imbued with the immortal realm's conception, conveying an exceptionally terrifying might. "What?" The Divinity Transformation Cultivator's pupils contracted, incredulous. Boom! The light pillar struck the shield, immediately distorting it and causing cracks to appear. The Divinity Transformation Cultivator made a quick decision to retreat repeatedly. The next moment, the shield exploded, and the light pillar hit the spot where the Divinity Transformation Cultivator had just been standing, shaking the ground in this area. Luckily, the divinity transformation cultivator had retreated quickly and was not struck. Even so, he still broke out in a cold sweat on his back. Turning to look at Lu Yi, he was somewhat in disbelief. "You changed the strength of the killing array." Lu Yi smiled. "Since the elder made a move, I also had to respond. It would be impolite not to return the favor." The divinity transformation cultivator fell silent, eyeing Lu Yi with even more wariness than spoke. "So young, yet such clever maneuvers. I no longer desire the green steel gold. You can have it." Chapter 252, 130, The Secret Room in the Labyrinth. Chapter 252, Chapter 130, The Secret Room in the Labyrinth. "Thank you for yielding, Senior." Lu Yi smiled and walked past with Jian Ruyu and the others. Jian Ruyu and the others were stunned, looking at Lu Yi with astonishment. No one had anticipated that Lu Yi's array realm mastery would have reached such a level that he could even alter the formation of this place. After all, this was the inheritance land of the Immortal sect. Even if it were only the power of the divinity transformation realm, without an array Tao realm far surpassing the divinity transformation realm, it would be impossible to achieve this. Before long, they had surpassed the divinity transformation cultivator and arrived at the broken green steel gold puppet. Lu Yi waved his hand, collected the items, and said with a smile, "I still have to compete with the heavenly dragon Saint's son. We'll divide it up later when we go out." "Brother Lu, the green steel gold was originally your find. It's up to you to decide what to do with it," said Feng, bumming. The others naturally had no objections. "Let's go," Lu Yi said, leading the group forward. The divinity transformation cultivator followed not far behind Lu Yi and the others. They soon arrived at a crossroad. Lu Yi went in the direction indicated by the immortal sword seed, while the divinity transformation cultivator, without a second thought, took the opposite direction. Upon seeing this scene, Wang Kaifeng commented, "Brother Lu truly has impressive methods, making that powerful cultivator at the divinity transformation realm retreat voluntarily, daring not to cross paths with you." Feng bumming looked at Lu Yi and let out a long sigh. "There are formations everywhere here. With Brother Lu's array Tao realm, if it were me, I wouldn't want to face off against Brother Lu either." The rest nodded in agreement. Jian Ruyu was visibly delighted. "True to form, my junior brother." The others gave Jian Ruyu a speechless glance. Was he forcing a connection? Lu Yi led the group on, and it wasn't long before they came across several fragments of broken puppets, all made of green steel gold. With no cultivators in sight, Lu Yi and the others casually collected the items. Just then, Lu Yi suddenly stopped and eyed a golden wall, his face showing a contemplative expression. Seeing Lu Yi's demeanor, the others were surprised. Jian Ruyu asked, "Junior brother, is there a problem here?" Lu Yi hesitated, nodded, then shook his head. "I'm not entirely sure. I need to verify. If there really is a problem, then there may be quite a few good things here." Upon hearing this, the group was first taken aback, then their faces lit up with joy as they turned their attention to Lu Yi. Without elaborating, Lu Yi's expression turned more solemn, and he reached out towards the golden wall. As spiritual energy circulated, the dense array patterns on the wall began to flicker and distort, undergoing transformations. In the next instant, a terrifying pressure emerged, causing everyone except Lu Yi to feel a tightness in their chests. The golden core realm cultivators turned particularly pale. Everyone stared at the wall in horror. As the array patterns continued to change, the entire wall began to vibrate. Even the ground shook as if an earthquake were occurring. The golden core cultivators had trouble standing steady, and with the fearsome pressure bearing down on them, they collapsed to the ground. The nascent soul realm cultivators also looked terrified. Jian Ruyu gripped Lu Yi's shoulder, alarmed. "Junior brother, what's happening? There's no danger, right?" "Brother Lu, by altering the array patterns on such a large scale, we're not going to encounter a peerless killing array, are we?" Feng Bumming's usually stoic face had gone pale. Wang Kaifeng was equally tense, sweat beading on his forehead as he kept an eye on their surroundings. Lu Yi's expression grew serious. The formations throughout the entire relic interlocked endlessly, with even the slightest glimpse requiring immense array Tao realm strength, let alone altering them. What Lu Yi had done earlier to enhance the killing array could hardly be called changing the formation. It was merely a slight modification. Now, he was fundamentally altering the array patterns of this region, and the disturbance caused was too great. Even he had to be extremely careful. A single misstep and the entire formation could collapse into a peerless killing array, from which not even he might emerge unscathed. He calmly spoke, reassuring the group, "Don't worry, this is a normal phenomenon." With nothing to say, Lin Yu felt like crying without tears, struggling to not collapse. Does a normal phenomenon look like this? The others were scared too, sensing that all the formations around them seemed to bristle with killing intent, as if ready to unleash terrifying attacks at any moment. Lu Yi remained silent and continued altering the formation. Just then, the seemingly ordinary golden wall suddenly shook and then began to slide backward, creating a crevice that was slowly widening. As the crevice appeared, intensely rich spiritual energy burst forth, invigorating everyone's spirits and accelerating the flow of spiritual energy within them. At the same time, various rays of rosy light emanated, illuminating the area through the widening gap. This is... All eyes widened in shock as the wall gradually parted. There's treasure inside. The immortal sex method is truly ingenious, hiding treasures within the walls of the maze, concealed by endless array patterns. If not for Brother Lu's profound understanding of array realms, I fear we would have never discovered this, Wang Kaifeng said, visibly shaken, as he watched the wall continue to open, revealing the nearly vaporized spiritual energy pouring out from within. At that moment, a series of roaring sounds came from afar, and formidable presences closed in swiftly from different directions. Feeling these powerful presences, Jian Ruyu's face changed, and he exclaimed, "This is bad. The concentration of spiritual energy here is too high and the commotion too great. Cultivators from other regions must have sensed something and are heading our way." Chapter 253, 130, The Secret Room in the Labyrinth 3. Chapter 254, Chapter 130, The Secret Room in the Labyrinth /3. The formidable golden column of light and golden sword light, with terrifying pressure, caused even the void to tremble, turning the expressions of all divinity transformation cultivators present ashen, a chill rising in their hearts. This killing array was incredibly powerful, even surpassing any other killing array they had encountered before. Divinity transformation cultivators shouted repeatedly, some using arts, some using cultivation treasures, to resist the pillars of light and sword light. Booming sounds were incessant, the entire corridor shaking. The aftermath turned into terrifying waves of energy, spreading towards both ends of the passage and seemingly about to crash down upon the disciples of the two sects. Lu Yi remained exceedingly calm. He stamped his foot on the ground, array patterns flashed, and two light screens formed, blocking the advance of the energy waves. Boom! The light screens wavered but showed not the slightest crack, bringing relief to the disciples of the two sects. But the outside divinity transformation cultivators weren't so lucky. Lu Yi had intensified the power of the killing array, and even the divinity transformation cultivators found it extremely troublesome. One after another, cultivation treasures shattered. They dodged awkwardly, some with their magic robes torn, some with skin cracking, and some coughing up blood while being thrown backwards. These divinity transformation cultivators looked at Lu Yi with faces full of shock, their eyes filled with disbelief. This kid can actually activate the killing array himself, and he even increased its power. That's right, he can alter the formation on the walls, clearly possessing a high realm in Array Tao. Activating the killing array and even enhancing its power is indeed within his capabilities. The crowd felt as if they had been doused with cold water, gradually regaining their composure, their gazes towards Lu Yi filled with astonishment and wariness. Every part of this environment is a great array, with killing arrays everywhere. Lu Yi can activate the killing arrays, even strengthen them. In this environment, he has no equal. This was equivalent to the entire relic being Lu Yi's small world. Even these divinity transformation cultivators, right now, their scalps tingled with numbness, and their hearts turned cold, not daring to act rashly. Boom! Not far away, Feng Buming clashed fiercely with that divinity transformation cultivator. Retreating back to Lu Yi and the others, Feng Buming's complexion was slightly pale, while that divinity transformation cultivator had a grave expression, also looking warily at Lu Yi. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Lu Yi alone had subdued the numerous divinity transformation cultivators. If this were to spread out, it would likely cause a storm in the entire eastern domain. Those capable of cultivating to divinity transformation, who among them is weak? Nearly 2 to 3 dozen divinity transformation cultivators were actually subdued by a nascent soul cultivator, and they did not even dare to make the slightest rash move. Jian Ruyu and Wang Kaifeng, along with disciples of the two sects, witnessed this and found it unbelievable, as if they were dreaming. Lu Yi calmly looked at the divinity transformation cultivators on both sides and smiled slightly. The seniors are right, the treasure belongs to the capable, so I'll be taking this treasure. There are no objections, right? The atmosphere turned silent, the complexions of the divinity transformation cultivators on both sides darkening. How could they dare to object? If Lu Yi went mad and triggered all the nearby killing arrays, they couldn't be sure how many would survive. Fellow friend Lu is a hero born from the youth. So young and yet possessing such a high realm in Array Tao, I have no objections. Fellow friend Lu's sword Tao cultivation is heaven-reaching, not to mention his formidable Array Tao cultivation. To achieve such accomplishments in both the sword array and cultivation is indeed admirable. Fellow friend Lu deserves to claim this treasure. Sighing inwardly, one after another, the divinity transformation cultivators expressed their stance. Seeing this, Feng Bumming sneered. A bunch of old geezers never shed a tear until they see the coffin. Brother Lu takes action, and they all submit readily, don't they? The faces of the divinity transformation cultivators stiffened, glaring furiously at Feng Bumming. If it weren't for Lu Yi's presence, even if they didn't kill Feng Bumming, they'd have to make him shed a layer of skin. Feng Bumming, still arrogant, laughed coldly, taunting these old geezers for acting high and mighty because of their age. This left the divinity transformation cultivator with darkened faces and stiff expression. Even Lu Yi felt somewhat embarrassed, had he known Feng Bumming's mouth could be so venomous. He patted Feng Bumming on the back and said, "Brother Feng, let's go in and check out the treasure." Upon hearing this, Feng Bumming's eyes brightened, and he finally led off the elder cultivators. "Let's go. With such dense spiritual energy, there must be extremely precious heavenly materials and earthly treasures inside." Lu Yi looked at the maze filled with the glow of dawn, taking steps to walk over. Then he thought of something and mumbled to himself, "I will take away the treasures from the maze amongst the divinity transformation cultivators." Task: take away the treasures from the maze amidst the divinity transformation cultivators. Reward: secret technique, true fire refining technique. Do you accept the task? Yes, no. When Lu Yi saw the task rewards, he was taken aback for a moment, somewhat astounded. He had thought about trying artifact refining later on, but he didn't expect the current task rewards to be precisely that, and a secret technique at that, likely extremely precious. Lu Yi joyfully accepted the task. Then, under the watchful eyes of the divinity transformation cultivators, led the disciples of the two sects into the secret chamber. The secret chamber wasn't large, just over 10 meters in diameter. However, the contents inside surprised even Lu Yi. There were several ponds, inside of which were milky white liquids and even small clumps of creamy substances. Lu Yi was all too familiar with these things. All of them were spirit milk, and there was even spirit marrow. On the other side, there were more than 10 cultivation treasures floating in midair, shimmering with colorful lights and emanating extremely powerful pressure. They were artifacts. Even Lu Yi was a bit astonished, not to mention the others. Although these people were all talented disciples of the Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect, their cultivation bases were still low, at most at the nascent soul level, and there were even golden core cultivators among them. Even talented individuals could not possibly obtain too many precious treasures within the two sects. At this moment, one after another, their eyes widened, their breaths held. Jian Ruyu looked at the clumps of creamy substance, shocked. Its spirit marrow. Given the concentration of spiritual energy, all of these are centennial spirit marrow. How can there be so much? Put together, there must be thousands of drops. Lin Yu was overwhelmed. These are spirit milk, millennium spirit dew, myriad spirit dew. They actually have all of them, my heavens. He kept repeating how they'd struck it rich. Wang Kaifeng's originally calm expression couldn't remain calm any longer as he approached a cluster of golden light, looking at a golden sword floating in the air, overcome with joy. It's a mid-grade treasure. Feng Bumming also went over to inspect these cultivation treasures and declared, all of them are artifacts. The worst is a low-grade treasure. There are 5 mid-grade and even 1 high-grade treasure. Apart from Lu Yi, everyone was ecstatic. Chapter 254, 130, The Secret Room in the Labyrinth 3. Chapter 254, Chapter 130, The Secret Room in the Labyrinth /3. The formidable golden column of light and golden sword light, with terrifying pressure, caused even the void to tremble, turning the expressions of all divinity transformation cultivators present ashen, a chill rising in their hearts. This killing array was incredibly powerful, even surpassing any other killing array they had encountered before. Divinity transformation cultivators shouted repeatedly, some using arts, some using cultivation treasures, to resist the pillars of light and sword light. Booming sounds were incessant, the entire corridor shaking. The aftermath turned into terrifying waves of energy, spreading towards both ends of the passage and seemingly about to crash down upon the disciples of the two sects. Lu Yi remained exceedingly calm. He stamped his foot on the ground, array patterns flashed, and two light screens formed, blocking the advance of the energy waves. Boom! The light screens wavered but showed not the slightest crack, bringing relief to the disciples of the two sects. But the outside divinity transformation cultivators weren't so lucky. Lu Yi had intensified the power of the killing array, and even the divinity transformation cultivators found it extremely troublesome. One after another, cultivation treasures shattered. They dodged awkwardly, some with their magic robes torn, some with skin cracking, and some coughing up blood while being thrown backwards. These divinity transformation cultivators looked at Lu Yi with faces full of shock, their eyes filled with disbelief. This kid can actually activate the killing array himself, and he even increased its power. That's right, he can alter the formation on the walls, clearly possessing a high realm in Array Tau. Activating the killing array and even enhancing its power is indeed within his capabilities. The crowd felt as if they had been doused with cold water, gradually regaining their composure, their gazes towards Lu Yi filled with astonishment and wariness. Every part of this environment is a great array, with killing arrays everywhere. Lu Yi can activate the killing arrays, even strengthen them. In this environment, he has no equal. This was equivalent to the entire relic being Lu Yi's small world. Even these divinity transformation cultivators, right now, their scalps tingled with numbness, and their hearts turned cold, not daring to act rashly. Boom! Not far away, Feng Buming clashed fiercely with that divinity transformation cultivator. Retreating back to Lu Yi and the others, Feng Buming's complexion was slightly pale, while that divinity transformation cultivator had a grave expression, also looking warily at Lu Yi. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Lu Yi alone had subdued the numerous divinity transformation cultivators. If this were to spread out, it would likely cause a storm in the entire eastern domain. Those capable of cultivating to divinity transformation, who among them is weak? Nearly 2 to 3 dozen divinity transformation cultivators were actually subdued by a nascent soul cultivator, and they did not even dare to make the slightest rash move. Jian Ruyu and Wang Kaifeng, along with disciples of the two sects, witnessed this and found it unbelievable, as if they were dreaming. Lu Yi calmly looked at the divinity transformation cultivators on both sides and smiled slightly. The seniors are right, the treasure belongs to the capable, so I'll be taking this treasure. There are no objections, right? The atmosphere turned silent, the complexions of the divinity transformation cultivators on both sides darkening. How could they dare to object? If Lu Yi went mad and triggered all the nearby killing arrays, they couldn't be sure how many would survive. Fellow friend Lu is a hero born from the youth. So young and yet possessing such a high realm in Array Tau, I have no objections. Fellow friend Lu's sword Dao cultivation is heaven-reaching, not to mention his formidable Array Tau cultivation. To achieve such accomplishments in both the sword array and cultivation is indeed admirable. Fellow friend Lu deserves to claim this treasure. Sighing inwardly, one after another, the divinity transformation cultivators expressed their stance. Seeing this, Feng Buming sneered. A bunch of old geezers never shed a tear until they see the coffin. Brother Lu takes action, and they all submit readily, don't they? The faces of the divinity transformation cultivators stiffened, glaring furiously at Feng Buming. If it weren't for Lu Yi's presence, even if they didn't kill Feng Buming, they'd have to make him shed a layer of skin. Feng Buming, still arrogant, laughed coldly, taunting these old geezers for acting high and mighty because of their age. This left the divinity transformation cultivator with darkened faces and stiff expressions. Even Lu Yi felt somewhat embarrassed, had he known Feng Buming's mouth could be so venomous. He patted Feng Buming on the back and said, "Brother Feng, let's go in and check out the treasure." Upon hearing this, Feng Buming's eyes brightened, and he finally led off the elder cultivators. Let's go. With such dense spiritual energy, There must be extremely precious heavenly materials and earthly treasures inside. Lu Yi looked at the maze filled with the glow of dawn, taking steps to walk over. Then he thought of something and mumbled to himself, "I will take away the treasures from the maze amongst the divinity transformation cultivators." Task: take away the treasures from the maze amidst the divinity transformation cultivators. Reward: secret technique, true fire refining technique. Do you accept the task? Yes, no. When Lu Yi saw the task rewards, he was taken aback for a moment, somewhat astounded. He had thought about trying artifact refining later on, but he didn't expect the current task rewards to be precisely that, and a secret technique at that, likely extremely precious. Lu Yi joyfully accepted the task. Then, under the watchful eyes of the divinity transformation cultivators, led the disciples of the two sects into the secret chamber. The secret chamber wasn't large, just over 10 meters in diameter. However, the contents inside surprised even Lu Yi. There were several ponds, inside of which were milky white liquids and even small clumps of creamy substances. Lu Yi was all too familiar with these things. All of them were spirit milk, and there was even spirit marrow. On the other side, there were more than 10 cultivation treasures floating in midair, shimmering with colorful lights and emanating extremely powerful pressure. They were artifacts. Even Lu Yi was a bit astonished, not to mention the others. Although these people were all talented disciples of the Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect, their cultivation bases were still low, at most at the nascent soul level, and there were even golden core cultivators among them. Even talented individuals could not possibly obtain too many precious treasures within the two sects. At this moment, one after another, their eyes widened, their breaths held. Jian Ruyu looked at the clumps of creamy substance, shocked. It's spirit marrow. Given the concentration of spiritual energy, all of these are centennial spirit marrow. How can there be so much? Put together, there must be thousands of drops. Lin Yu was overwhelmed. These are spirit milk, millennium spirit dew, myriad spirit dew. They actually have all of them, my heavens. He kept repeating how they'd struck it rich. Wang Kaifeng's originally calm expression couldn't remain calm any longer as he approached a cluster of golden light, looking at a golden sword floating in the air, overcome with joy. It's a mid-grade treasure. Feng Buming also went over to inspect these cultivation treasures and declared, all of them are artifacts. The worst is a low-grade treasure. There are 5 mid-grade and even 1 high-grade treasure. Apart from Lu Yi, everyone was ecstatic. Chapter 255, 130, One Long Admiration for Thunder Sound Saintess. Chapter 255, Chapter 130, One Long Admiration for Thunder Sound Saintess. Ultimately, Lu Yi packed up everything and planned to distribute it like the green steel gold he found earlier after leaving the chamber. Outside the secret chamber, a group of divinity transformation cultivators looked on enviously. They had naturally heard the sounds from inside, spirit milk, spirit marrow, and even artifacts. So many precious items, a pity they couldn't get their hands on them. Afterward, Lu Yi led his group forward, and the divinity transformation cultivators, by unspoken agreement, all went in the opposite direction of Lu Yi. Lu Yi's mastery in Array Tao realm was so formidable that the cultivators couldn't resist, and could only avoid encountering him as much as possible. As Lu Yi's group delved deeper, he noticed more signs of battles. The number of the deceased had also increased significantly. Most were cultivators of the divinity transformation realm. Some had encountered killing arrays they couldn't withstand and were killed, while others died battling other divinity transformation cultivators. Various treasures were scattered throughout this inheritance site. Some were not hidden in secret chambers. Lu Yi and his companions even found a sky sun flower by the roadside, a rare heavenly material and earthly treasure that was tens of thousands of years old. This was enough to drive any divinity transformation cultivator mad. Fortunes moved the heart. With all sorts of heavenly materials and earthly treasures emerging, killings were everywhere. A few divinity transformation cultivators, seeing that Lu Yi's group was not very powerful, attempted to rob them but were killed on the spot by a killing array activated by Lu Yi. Lu Yi showed no mercy to these cultivators who tried to hunt him down. As they moved further in, the formations became increasingly difficult, eventually reaching a level that could trap those in the cave void realm. The divinity transformation cultivators who made it this far were few, mostly Array Tao masters who tried to pass through the killing, arrays using their own power and failed, dying in the attempt. On the road, Lu Yi found two more secret chambers. Upon opening them, they found various spirit milks and spirit marrow, along with heavenly materials and earthly treasures and cultivation treasures. The noise from opening the chambers was loud. Many cultivators would come to look, but having seen that Lu Yi could trigger killing arrays, they were extremely wary and dared not make any reckless moves. Turning a corner, they emerged onto a vast square. At the deep end of the square was a huge palace that resembled an immortal palace. The interior flashed with colorful lights, and in the sky above, wisps of illusions like true dragons and killins flew marvelously. "This is the real relic of the Immortal sect," Jian Ruyu exclaimed in surprise. The others also looked at the remains in shock. The palace was immense and likely contained many treasures inside. There were other cultivators on the square besides them. Liu turned his head and saw many groups, including cultivators from the Tei Holy Land, Thunder Sound Immortal Sect, Taixuan Immortal Sect, Heavenly Dragon Holy Land, and even the Heavenly Palace. Lu Yi saw the saint sons and saintesses of these lands, along with their talented disciples, all following behind cave void cultivators. Each holy land was equipped with powerful array masters, who, at the moment, looked solemn, slowly investigating the formations and moving towards the direction of the palace. Besides these, there were several cave void loose cultivators banding together. Among them were also individuals with exceptional talents in formations, who were also moving toward the palace. Seeing Lu Yi and his companions approach, many revealed surprised expressions. After all, Lu Yi's group didn't have powerful cave void cultivators or array masters. The strongest among them were only nascent soul cultivators. They couldn't imagine how Lu Yi's group had made it this far. At that moment, Jian Ruyu looked at a group in the distance and said, "They are seniors from my Divine Sword sect. And my Emperor Sword sect elders too." Feng Bumming also pointed out to a group of older cultivators. The strong ones from the Divine Sword sect and the Emperor Sword sect were there, consisting of Cave Void Realm and Divinity Transformation Realm cultivators, including several array masters. Noticing Lu Yi and the others, they all paused, then walked over along the same route. A Cave Void Strength cultivator from the Divine Sword sect said, "Junior Brother Wang, Junior Sister Ruyu, we thought you hadn't entered yet. Why didn't you notify us to pick you up? Indeed, we sent you messages, but you didn't respond." A man from the Emperor Sword sect frowned at Feng Bumming. The disciples of other Sacred Land Immortal sects met up with their respective strong Cave Void members. Only the Divine Sword sect and Emperor Sword sect's younger generation wasn't there, which made them understandably anxious. However, the maze was too vast and searching aimlessly was futile. Wang Kaifeng took out a jade token and saw it glowing somewhat awkwardly, and smiled. "We were looking for treasures and didn't notice." The others were also somewhat embarrassed. Perhaps some disciples noticed, but why follow Lu Yi? To find a maze and obtain heavenly materials and earthly treasures, why would they then go and meet up with their sect elders at that time? Could the sect elders bring them to find the secret chambers in the maze? Wouldn't that be foolish? So no one brought it up. Seeing they all acted like they hadn't noticed, the strong cultivators from the Emperor Sword sect and Divine Sword sect exchanged looks and wore strange expressions. A Cave Void Realm female cultivator from the Divine Sword sect said with some surprise, "Without us, you were able to penetrate this deep, which is truly surprising." The others nodded, also looking at them in surprise. "How did you manage it? Surely you didn't just fight your way through with Lu Xiaodi's combat strength," joked a Cave Void cultivator from the Divine Sword sect. Jian Ruyu chuckled and said, "We didn't have to fight our way through. The junior brother's mastery in formations is extremely high, making our journey here as if walking on flat land. Where was there any need to fight?" Chapter 256, 131. The Thunder Sound Saintess has long admired too. Chapter 256, Chapter 131. The Thunder Sound Saintess has long admired /2. Hearing this, the powerhouses from Divine Sword sect and Emperor Sword sect were all astonished as they gazed at Lu Yi, especially a few cultivators with formidable mastery in formations, who looked at him with scrutinizing eyes. Formation mastery, being one of the Tao, is not something easily mastered. Lu Yi leading so many people all the way to the formation area of the Cave Void Realm left them somewhat incredulous. After all, while Lu Yi's sword talent dazzled many, Array Tao and Sword Tao are two different matters. Lu Yi also noticed the surprise and inquiry in the eyes of many strong cultivators but didn't mind. He smiled and said, I just have a slight understanding of formations. Ha ha ha, since Brother Lu has a slight understanding of formations, why not join us in breaking the formation? A middle-aged man from Divine Sword sect suggested. His cultivation base was at the divinity transformation realm, but he had considerable mastery over Array Tao, which made him more useful here than one would imagine. He naturally found it hard to believe that Lu Yi, at such a young age, could have such profound mastery over Array Tao. The other Array Tao masters were also eager to try. Lu Yi didn't say much, just nodded. Of course that's possible. He stepped forward and walked at the forefront with several Array Tao masters. As each array master examined the array patterns underneath his feet, frowning and calculating, Lu Yi had already taken steps forward and walked in a certain direction. The actions of Lu Yi were beyond what the array masters had expected, their expressions changing again and again. Be careful. Don't walk around recklessly. However, as Lu Yi moved forward, everything was still. The array patterns didn't budge, and no killing array was triggered. This left the several Array Tao masters dumbfounded. Lu Yi stepped forward, walking as if strolling in a courtyard, quickly advancing ahead, and all the while, everything remained peaceful. Both sects' powerhouses fell silent, the Array Tao masters gaping at Lu Yi with dumbstruck expressions, seemingly unable to comprehend the situation. Feng Bumming laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, Senior Brother Liu, Brother Lu's mastery of formations is extremely high, and if you want to compete with him in Array Tao, you're still lacking a bit. Jian Ruyu smiled slightly. Let's hurry over. The young geniuses from Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect had witnessed Lu Yi's earth-shattering Array Tao mastery and were already accustomed to it, quickly following the path Lu Yi had taken. And the powerhouses from the other sects snapped out of their petrification. A cave void cultivator from Divine Sword Sect laughed heartily, patting the stunned Array Master from Divine Sword Sect. Junior Brother Wang, it seems your Array Tao still needs improvement. The Array Tao powerhouses exchanged glances, twitching at the corners of their mouths. One after another walked over, squeezing next to Lu Yi. Brother Lu, I didn't expect your mastery of Array Tao to be so high. How did you so easily spot the non-lethal part of the array? Yeah, Brother Lu, give us an explanation, please. One by one, the Array Tao expert's eyes shone brightly. Lu Yi saw their eager looks, thought for a moment, and then muttered to himself, I have to explain Array Tao to cultivators from Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect. Task: explain Array Tao to the cultivators from Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect. Reward: top-level Array Tao analysis, improvement in Array Tao realm. Accept the task, yes, no. Lu Yi's eyes brightened, revealing a smile. The task reward was good, and Lu Yi accepted the task, immediately feeling motivated. He walked forward while explaining Array Tao to the masters from both sects. Lu Yi had a profound understanding of Array Tao. After all, he had comprehended many formations to their limits, and by analogy, he could understand many others as well. His explanations, from the basics to the deep insights, had the array masters from both sects utterly engrossed, their eyes flashing as if they were listening to the music of immortals. Meanwhile, the other cultivators were exchanging confused looks, finding themselves completely at sea. They either didn't practice Array Tao, or their proficiency was very low, naturally unable to understand. As he explained, Lu Yi led everyone forward quickly. Originally, the fastest ones across the entire plaza were Tei Holy Land, which started from Array Tao, and on par with it was Heavenly Palace, followed by Taixuan Immortal Sect and Thunder Sound Immortal Sect. Then came Sword God Sect and Emperor Sword Sect, with Heavenly Dragon Holy Land at the rear. Most of Heavenly Dragon Holy Land's cultivators practiced body refinement, believing in the principle, one's power can break all methods, having little interest in the brain requiring Array Tao. But now, with Lu Yi leading the cultivators from both sects at a very fast pace, it didn't take long before they surpassed Taixuan Immortal Sect and Thunder Sound Immortal Sect, heading straight towards Heavenly Palace and Tei Holy Land. This caused the complexions of various powerhouses present to change. The Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun watched Lu Yi leading a line of people forward, while several array masters listened to him as if they were receiving sacred teachings, nearly bulging their eyes out. He couldn't believe it. This bastard, he has such Array Tao mastery too. A cave void powerhouse from Heavenly Dragon found the situation exasperating, pounding on their Array Tao master. Junior Brother Dong, are you up to this or not? Junior brother Dong, standing 2 meters tall with a robust physique, hardly looked like someone who practiced a Tao. He was covered in sweat. I've tried my best. It wasn't meant to be like this. The people from Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect weren't much different from us. It's not my fault. Damn it, let's go tie up Lu Yi and bring him over to help us break through the Tao. A muscular man, bulging with muscles, stepped forward to go over, but after only a couple of steps, a flash of sword light struck, forcing him to change his expression and quickly defend. With a loud boom, he was knocked back. He cursed and grumbled about his bad luck, surrounded by killing arrays. Not just Heavenly Dragon Holy Land, but powerhouses from Thunder Sound Immortal Sect and Taixuan Immortal Sect were also wide-eyed, watching as the cultivators from Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect gradually moved further away, leaving them far behind. Chapter 257, 131 Thunder Sound Saintess has long admired 3. Chapter 257, Chapter 131 Thunder Sound Saintess has long admired /3. They suddenly found it hard to accept. Why though? They were clearly behind them just a moment ago. A cave void cultivator from Thunder Sound Immortal Sect glanced back at the Thunder Sound Saintess, then shouted at Lu Yi. Brother Lu, our junior sister Tianian has admired you for a long time and hopes to have a word with you. Thunder Sound Saintess. Her eyes widened as she stared at her right-minded senior brother, her mind filled with question marks. Immediately after, the aura of thunder light flowed around the Thunder Sound Saintess, who was extremely annoyed. At that moment, that cave void cultivator hastily transmitted a message to calm her. Junior sister Tianian, stay calm. Luya's mastery over a Tao is alarmingly profound. Surely he passed through the square faster than us. With him, we can seize the advantage. You wouldn't want the elders inside the palace to be isolated and helpless, would you? The beautiful face of the Thunder Sound Saintess shifted, and then calmed down. Lu Yi and the others naturally also heard the shout from the Thunder Sound Immortal Sect's cave void powerhouse. Cultivators from Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect exploded with indignation. It's Wang Beiming. This guy usually seems so righteous. Never thought he'd be so dark-hearted. A cave void cultivator from the Emperor Sword Sect, surrounded by sword light, wished he could directly strike the cultivators from Thunder Sound Holy Land with his sword. The others also cursed angrily, feeling that Wang Beiming was unprincipled. Jian Ruyu frowned even more, glancing at the beautifully standing Thunder Sound Saintess. Lei Tianian, this woman has such a heavy scheme. Junior brother, best if you ignore her. Lu Yi, left with no other choice, smiled. I don't even know that Thunder Sound Saintess. You're all thinking too much. They probably just covet my mastery of a Tao. Lu Yi shook his head and addressed the Thunder Sound Holy Land. Thank you, Heavenly Sound Immortal, for your admiration. After we leave the ruins, I will surely visit Thunder Sound Holy Land and chat with Heavenly Sound Immortal if there is time. This statement made many young cultivators bristle, glaring angrily at Lu Yi. The Thunder Sound Saintess, with her unparalleled beauty and extraordinary talent as a sect saintess, naturally had many suitors. Hearing Lu Yi's words, they all felt quite displeased. Upon hearing this, Wang Beiming sighed regretfully. Junior sister Tianian, your charm falls a bit short. You couldn't sway that lad over. The Thunder Sound Saintess, surrounded by streaks of thunder light, looked murderously at Wang Beiming, causing him to promptly hold his tongue. Meanwhile, Lu Yi and his group continued to advance. The square was just that large. Naturally, the cultivators from Tei Holy Land and Heavenly Palace noted Lu Yi's group quickly approaching. Each of them frowned. The palace was just ahead. The doors of the palace had already been blasted open. Presumably, the powerhouses from the great sects had already entered, the situation inside still unclear. For these people entering, whether helping or seizing resources, the benefits were significant. Originally, the cultivators from Tei Holy Land and Heavenly Palace were the strongest in array manipulation, but now with Lu Yi emerging, all of them felt tremendously cautious. A cave void cultivator from Divine Sword Sect frowned, looking in the direction of the Heavenly Palace, somewhat wary. Brother Lu, be careful of the cultivators from the Heavenly Palace. They are very ruthless. Before entering the square, they had already schemed and killed several cave void powerhouses. Hearing this, Lu Yi raised his eyebrows, glanced in the direction of Heavenly Palace, where the Saint Heir and the Saintess were now looking at him. The Saint Heir still had a smile, but the Saintess, unlike before, only glanced at him once, obviously somewhat surprised this time. After all, the mastery of Array Tao displayed by Lu Yi was too formidable, even surpassing that of the Array Tao master of the Heavenly Palace. Lu Yi no longer paid attention and led his group to continue moving. At that moment, a patch of array patterns not far from Lin Yu's feet suddenly flickered erratically. A terrifying pillar of light burst forth, sweeping toward Lin Yu and the group of cultivators. Behind them were the young talents from both sects, faced with an attack strong enough for the cave void realm. How could they resist? Their faces pale, merely the pressure alone caused cracks to appear on their bodies. Just then a voice bellowed in anger, "How dare you!" Two streaks of sword light flashed simultaneously, as if slicing through space, and struck upon the column of light. Boom! A booming sound erupted, the column of light was extinguished, and a sword curtain shielded the many young talents in front of it, blocking the aftermath. Jian Ruyu coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood, her face pale. Cave Void cultivators from Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect held their swords at the ready. Their fierce killing intent spilled out, glaring fixedly in the direction of Heavenly Palace. The two Array Tao masters from Heavenly Palace remained composed. Their strike having failed, they retracted their actions. Lu Yi looked at Jian Ruyu, concerned. "Senior Sister Ruyu, are you all right?" Jian Ruyu shook her head. "It's just a bit of a shock, nothing serious." Lu Yi nodded. Whether it was before, when Jian Ruyu gave him the Sword Dao order inviting him to the Sword Dao conference, or when she came to inform him of the relic's appearance, she had always been kind to him. Seeing Jian Ruyu injured, fury surged in Lu Yi's heart. He looked towards the cultivators of the Heavenly Palace, revealing a radiant smile. "If you all want to play, I'll gladly join in the fun." He stepped onto the array patterns. The next moment, 3 array patterns surrounding the Heavenly Palace abruptly shone brightly, and 3 vast sword lights imbued with immortal sword intent swept forth, shooting directly toward the cultivators of the Heavenly Palace. The fearsome sword intent caused the expressions of the cave void cultivators of Heavenly Palace to change. A few cave void cultivators took steps that seemed like teleportation, arriving before the 3 sword lights. They spread their hands, and what seemed like Tao maps materialized in the air, blocking the path of the sword lights. The sword lights disappeared soundlessly into the Tao maps, which shimmered with light before collapsing. The 2 Array Tao masters from Heavenly Palace frowned and coldly stared at Lu Yi. "Boy, are you attacking?" Lu Yi smiled and, without answering, let his actions speak for him. In his eyes, a flow of complex light flickered, and he pointed once. The array patterns around Heavenly Palace suddenly twisted, beginning to transform. A tremendously intimidating pressure spread out, that of far surpassing the cave void realm. This caused the cultivators of Heavenly Palace to turn pale. "Changing the formation. Are you declaring an unending feud with us?" One Array Tao master yelled, then showcased extremely potent Array Tao skills. His expression serious, his fingers repeatedly tapped as array patterns gathered around him, stabilizing the fluctuating formation. And he slowly reversed the changes to the formation. Update first, revise later tilde. Chapter 258, 132, Formation suppresses cave void. Chapter 258, Chapter 132, Formation suppresses cave void. Lu Yi's expression was calm as he spoke slowly. "Since you've made a move, what else is there to say?" He pressed his palm to the ground, and lines of array patterns emerged within his palm, resonating with the array patterns on the ground. The array patterns were mysterious and complex, resembling a manifestation of the ultimate truths of the Heavenly Tao, dizzying to anyone who took just one glance. As the array patterns emerged in Lu Yi's palm, all the array patterns in the area where the disciples of Heavenly Palace were located lit up, circulating and beginning to distort. A terribly oppressive force emanated outwards, and with the changes in the pattern array, the ground began to shake violently. Changing so many array patterns at once. How is that possible? 2 Array Tao masters of the Heavenly Palace were gaping in disbelief. Cold sweat poured down their foreheads. Their spiritual energy circulated around their bodies as they watched the array patterns intensely, constantly shouting out whilst trying to suppress the ground's array patterns to prevent Lu Yi from transforming them into a killing array. This was a confrontation on the level of Array Tao, a contest of understanding between both sides regarding formations. The mysterious and complex array patterns could completely alter the efficacy of an array formation with every single change in the lines, and while Lu Yi sought to turn all formations into killing arrays, naturally, The two array Tao masters had no such wish, continuously changing array patterns to disrupt Lu Yi's actions. It must be said that these two array Tao masters indeed had some skill. Lu Yi's several attempts to change the array were all addressed by them. Lu Yi raised his eyebrows and extended another hand, pointing towards the void. All the killing arrays surrounding the cultivators of Heavenly Palace were activated and even strengthened. Streams of sword light and beams of light shot up to the sky, carrying an incredibly terrifying momentum as they attacked the cultivators of Heavenly Palace. The two array Tao masters were the most fiercely attacked. The dreadful oppressive force whitened the faces of many Heavenly Palace disciples, even those whose strength was not inferior to the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun, including both the Saint Sun and the Saintess, looked grave and incredulous. The cave void cultivators of Heavenly Palace changed their expressions. They stood on the outside of the group of Heavenly Palace cultivators, each displaying their arts, forming complex and mysterious Tao maps to fend off the attacks. The cultivation technique of the Heavenly Palace cultivators was miraculous. The Tao maps seemed to connect to another world, silently absorbing all sword qi and beams of light into the Tao maps. The attacks enhanced by Lu Yi were extremely powerful even in the cave void realm, and were dense and numerous. Even though the cave void cultivators of Heavenly Palace were strong, they still found it very strenuous. Their faces were unsightly, and beads of sweat even appeared on their foreheads. Their Tao maps began to shake little by little, on the verge of breaking at any moment. There was a limit to how much the Tao maps could absorb. The two array Tao masters of Heavenly Palace had even graver expressions, drenched in cold sweat. It was clear that Lu Yi's mastery of array Tao far exceeded their imagination. They understood that they had encountered a very thorny opponent. All the cultivators present in the plaza were strong, either disciples from the great sects and major sects or powerful loose cultivators. Seeing Lu Yi single-handedly suppressed the two array Tao masters, and a group of cave void cultivators from the Central State's Heavenly Palace left them astonished. This innate sword Immortal isn't his main discipline, the sword Tao. How come he has such a high mastery of array Tao as well? It's hard to imagine how someone so young managed to achieve such great success in both the sword Tao and array Tao. Could there really be such a genius in this world? Cultivator after cultivator discussed among themselves. Some were pleased, as the heritage site belonged to the Eastern Domain, and these cultivators from Central State had come to share in the spoils, which was already irritating. Moreover, the fact that they continued to act so dominantly within the Eastern Domain, having killed numerous cultivators on their way here, certainly didn't help matters. Now seeing Heavenly Palace running into a snag, they took delight in their misfortune. The cultivators from Tei Holy Land were all proficient in array Tao realm, and seeing Lu Yi's methods left them incredibly shocked as well. A cave void cultivator from Tei Holy Land exclaimed with admiration, "Impressive skill. Lu Yi's enlightenment in array Tao is extremely strong. The techniques he's using are merely basic formation methods, but they produce such great effect." Tei Saint Sun's expression was calm, but his eyes flickered constantly, showing a surge of emotions in his heart. Lu Yi's array Tao attainments were even more powerful than that of his, the Saint Sun of Tei Holy Land. Lu Yi multitasked, simultaneously changing the formations and activating killing arrays. The two array Tao masters struggled to defend completely. They could only stabilize the formation underneath them, with little ability to fend off the killing arrays. The killing arrays grew stronger, and several cave void cultivators began to change expression, as divinity transformation cultivators took to the field to defend against the attacks. Just then, one of the cave void cultivators' Tao maps shattered, and a streak of sword light flashed by, heading straight for the divinity transformation stage array Tao master. The array Tao master turned pale, and with a loud shout, he spat out an array map. The array map was mystical and complicated, enveloping him inside. The sword light hit the array map, which shook violently before shattering, causing the array Tao master's body to crack open, blood to spurt out violently, and he was sent flying. Luckily, several cave void cultivators reacted promptly, blocking the aftermath and saving him. One of the leading cave void cultivators of Heavenly Palace hurried to speak. "Brother, it's Junior Yan's fault. He shouldn't have tested you. I will have him apologize to you. Please pull back." Lu Yi's expression was calm and unaffected, which caused the disciples of Heavenly Palace to change their expression. With only one array Tao master in the cave void realm, It was difficult even to prevent Lu Yi from altering the array, let alone defend against it. Chapter 259, 132, Formation Suppressing Cave Void 2. Chapter 259, Chapter 132, Formation Suppressing Cave Void. If this place were entirely converted by Lu Yi into a killing array, these people would likely all perish here. The leading heavenly palace cultivator shouted, "Young man, our elders are also in the palace. Spare those who can be spared. Why create deadly enemies? We can offer apologies." At this moment, the cave void cultivators from Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect also reacted, constantly transmitting their voices, pleading with Lu Yi to give them a way out. After all, in the palace, there were unification and great Mahayana powers from the heavenly palace. Moreover, it was said that outside, there were tribulation crossing experts from the heavenly palace. The ones here were the unparalleled geniuses of the heavenly palace, especially the Saint Heir and Saintess, who were incredibly powerful. If Lu Yi were to annihilate them all here, that would truly turn the heavens upside down. Unless Lu Yi stayed within the forbidden grounds of the Divine Sword Sect and never left, he would likely face dreadful retaliation, and even possibly, a tribulation crossing great power personally coming to annihilate him. In fact, the Cave Void and Divinity Transformation cultivators from the Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect were still somewhat dazed. They had never imagined that Lu Yi could be so ferocious that by his own strength, he actually suppressed all the experts of the Heavenly Palace and even cornered them to a dead end. This was too terrifying. The Heavenly Palace was not just any sect, but an immortal sect that had been passed down for millions of years with rich heritage and powerful traditions, yet it was unexpectedly defeated by Lu Yi alone. At this point, even they felt compelled to intervene. "Lu Xiaodi, truly killing them would do you no good," they said. Lu Yi heard the analysis of advantages and disadvantages from the experts of both sects and pondered for a moment, calming himself down. He glanced at the Heavenly Palace cultivators who were barely holding on and smiled. "Since that's the case, well then, as this was an Array Tao confrontation, and you lost, according to the Array Master's rules, you can just hand over your Array books to me." Upon hearing this, the Array Master of the Cave Void Realm's expression changed. "Impossible. How could the traditions of an immortal sect be shown to just anyone? Even killing us would not allow it." The leading Cave Void cultivator also spoke firmly. "Young man, we can't agree to your request." Lu Yi clicked his tongue and said, "I'm not asking for your core formation traditions, just the advanced formation traditions. You must have those right." After all, White Cloud Sect was merely a small sect in Qingzhou. Even if his master seemed powerful, Lu Yi had also asked his master, who didn't possess any powerful and profound formations. Much of Lu Yi's current mastery in Array Tao could be credited to his task rewards. Acquiring the Array Tao traditions from an immortal sect would greatly benefit his Array Tao. Hearing Lu Yi's words, a few Cave Void cultivators' expressions changed repeatedly, showing hesitance. Seeing this, Lu Yi frowned and said, "You were the ones who attacked first and I merely counterattacked. Morally speaking, if you can't provide a satisfactory compensation, then don't blame me for not being polite." At the same time, Lu Yi thought to himself, "I must defeat the Heavenly Palace cultivators." Task: defeat the Heavenly Palace cultivators. Reward: Array Tao Realm Enhancement, Mid-Grade Spirit Artifact, Heavenly Array Map. Accept the task, yes, no. Lu Yi felt delighted, a mid-grade spirit artifact as a reward. That's fantastic. Lu Yi happily accepted the task. Yet his expression remained calm, the Tao patterns in his palm flowing, ready to press down at any moment. Just then the leading Cave Void cultivator spoke up. "All right, we agree to your terms." Lu Yi raised an eyebrow and looking at the Heavenly Palace cultivators said, "Hand over the Array book." The Array Master of the Cave Void Realm's expression was extremely cold as he took out a thick golden skin book and threw it towards Lu Yi. Lu Yi reached out and pulled the skin book into his hand. The material of the skin book was incredibly heavy, with patterns interwoven upon it, as if the principles of the heavenly Tao were flowing through the book. Lu Yi was thrilled. Aside from the task, he had obtained such a wonderful item. Lu Yi smiled at the Heavenly Palace cultivators, his spiritual energy restrained, no longer altering the formation or activating the killing array. The Array Master of the Cave Void Realm instantly breathed a sigh of relief, hastily beginning to stabilize the array patterns. With no killing array, no sword chi, and no beam attacks targeting them, the cave void cultivators also breathed a sigh of relief, all of them looking at Lu Yi with uncertain expressions, none of them speaking. The atmosphere on the plaza was silent, each array master not even performing simulations of the array, all of them just watching Lu Yi's conflict with the heavenly palace, all of them dumbstruck. Lu Yi alone had actually pressured the powerful cultivators of the heavenly palace into admitting defeat. Everyone was surprised, and the saint heirs and saintesses were especially unsettled internally, all young generation peers, yet Lu Yi's performance was too stunning, enough to compete with the previous generation of cultivators. In the thunder sound Immortal sect, Wang Beiming sighed, continually saying that his junior sister Tianyan had failed to attract Lu Yi over, lacking in charm, until Lei Tianyan erupted, thunder striking him, and he dared not speak further. In the heavenly dragon Holy Land, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's eyes were nearly popping out, utterly unprepared for Lu Yi to be so fierce here. However, soon the heavenly dragon Saint Sun calmed down, recognizing that there were too many array patterns here, which constitute a natural array domain for an array Tao master like Lu Yi, enabling him to utilize all the array patterns. Meanwhile, other strong cultivators from the heavenly dragon Holy Land were discussing how they could possibly abduct Lu Yi to lead the way for them. The ultimate conclusion was, it was impossible. If Lu Yi could suppress all the strong cultivators of the heavenly palace, he could naturally suppress the cultivators from the heavenly dragon Holy Land too, which left many of them discontented, cursing continuously. Chapter 260, 132, Array suppresses Cave Void 3. Chapter 260, Chapter 132, Array suppresses Cave Void /3. The cultivators from Tei Holy Land were the most agitated. As the talented disciples of Array Tao Sacred Land, they were all too aware of how terrifying Lu Yi's mastery of Array Tao realm was. The leading disciple of Tei Holy Land, who was also a Cave Void Realm Array Tao master, couldn't help but exclaim, "A cultivator like Lu Yi shouldn't be practicing sword Tao. If he were to join our Tei Holy Land, he could reach the supreme state where everything under the heavens can be used in arrays. Achieving immortality through Array Tao is just a thought away." This caused dissatisfaction among the cultivators from Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect. Their words sounded as if Sword Tao was inferior to Array Tao. The cultivators watched the disciples from Tei Holy Land with surging sword intent, itching to chop them to pieces. However, considering they were in a place full of array patterns, and that the Tei Holy Land's cultivators had too much advantage here, they refrained from taking action. Cultivators from the Taixuan Immortal sect, Wind Origin sect, among other sects, and powerful loose cultivators, everyone was incredibly surprised and gained a deeper understanding of Lu Yi. One man suppressed a host of talented individuals from Heavenly Palace, in the realm of arrays, outshining the Array Tao prodigy of Heavenly Palace's Cave Void realm. This person is truly a freak. A monster, whether it's Array Tao or Sword Tao, he could reign supreme among the young generation. Facing everyone's discussions, Lu Yi showed little reaction. He was very happy, having gained a lot from this battle. Lu Yi said with a smile, "Let's continue going in." The cultivators from Emperor Sword Sect and Divine Sword Sect nodded in agreement. They laughed and glanced at the other sect's cultivators who were full of envy. A cultivator from Divine Sword Sect said with a chuckle, "Lu Zai Odi, you far surpass us in the field of arrays. We'll do whatever you say." A Cave Void cultivator from Emperor Sword Sect nodded, as if it were only natural. "If Brother Lu says we should enter the Immortal Palace first, then let's go ahead. No need to wait for others." The other experts clenched their teeth in anger. These damn creatures, relying on an Array Tao freak, acting so arrogant. How shameless. After this battle, no one dared to lay a hand on Lu Yi and the others. Lu Yi stepped forward, leading the group to quickly advance, and it wasn't long before they surpassed the cultivators from Tei Holy Land. Then they went through the plaza and entered the palace. The palace had several layers. In the first layer of the palace, Lu Yi and the others saw bodies scattered all over the ground. These bodies were torn apart as if they'd been ripped to pieces by someone. However, the corpses were dried up, devoid of blood and flesh, resembling mummies. Even just the remains emanated a terrifying presence. Lu Yi felt his heart palpitate at the sight, and one could only imagine how powerful these mummies must have been while alive. These corpses might be the remains of the elites from Immortal Sword Sect. Their unceasing obsessions after death turned them into mummies, guarding the immortal palace, a cave void cultivator from Divine Sword Sect suggested. Hasn't the Immortal Sword Sect been destroyed for millions of years? These bodies haven't decomposed yet. How powerful must they have been in life? Everyone was immensely shocked. At the very least, they were from the Unification realm. Perhaps all of them were great Mahayana cultivators. Awestruck, some immediately took action and collected the remains of these cultivators. Bones that had not decayed for 1,000,000 years could likely be used as heavenly materials and earthly treasures. They could be used for artifact refining and might even produce powerful cultivation treasures. Apart from the mummies, Lu Yi and the others saw that many structures had been destroyed, likely the work of the powerful individuals who had burst in before. Yet there was no commotion outside. Lu Yi looked around, surprised, and noticed array patterns flickering in the sky above the palace. He understood the situation. The area within the palace was separated from the outside by array patterns, creating two independent small worlds. Lu Yi couldn't help being impressed, truly worthy of being an immortal sect holy land. Even in ruins, the leftover inheritance land was still incredibly awe-inspiring. They pushed deeper and soon arrived at the second layer of the palace. In the second layer, they noticed traces of fresh blood. That is, Jian Ruyu pointed to a corner in surprise. I've seen that person outside before. He should be a supreme elder from Minjiu Palace. In the corner was a dismembered corpse lying on the ground, blood splattered everywhere. The remains were only the upper half of the body, with blood and viscera strewn about, an utterly horrifying sight. Even in death, the mutilated body still radiated a terrifying aura. Everyone was startled. He's a great power from the Unification realm. To think he died here, it seems the palace is quite dangerous. A cave void cultivator commented cautiously, scanning the surroundings. They also spotted a pitch-black claw covered with fine scales, from which a terrifying malevolent aura emanated. It must be a monster transformed from a powerful individual after death. With such intense murderous intent and malevolence, it's hard to imagine the extent of obsession this person had before death. A female cave void cultivator remarked with a sigh, shaking her head. This place is almost certainly the inheritance land of the Immortal Sword Sect. Considering the overnight destruction of the Immortal Sword Sect back in the day, having lingering obsessions is understandable. The leading divinity transformation cultivator from Divine Sword Sect stated calmly, keeping watch over the surroundings. Beyond the mutilated body, there were many other bloody splatters. Signs of battle were everywhere. However, the array patterns inside the palace were incredibly firm and terrifying. Even great Mahayana cultivators, or those from the Unification realm, couldn't destroy the palace despite fighting with all their might. At this moment, Lu Yu was not interested in listening to these analyses. Ever since he entered the palace, the immortal sword seed within him had been vibrating more intensely. It was a response from the immortal sword seed and immortal sword intent. He could sense it clearly. With such a reaction, there was no doubt that it was the immortal sword scripture, the complete version. The direction pointed by the immortal sword sect was precisely within the palace ahead. Boom! Just then, a booming sound echoed, and the entire palace trembled. A terrifying oppressive force swept through, causing Lu Yi and the others to look up toward the inner part of the palace. The cave void cultivators and divinity transformation cultivators held up well. Nascent soul cultivators were only slightly affected, but golden core cultivators turned pale, their bodies going limp. Such oppressive force was truly frightening. Roar! An animalistic roar resounded, as if bellowing up from hell itself. Lu Yi felt his body turn ice cold, as though he had been swallowed by an endless purgatory. Inside lay an exceedingly terrifying monster. It wasn't just Lu Yi. The others' faces also changed dramatically as they stepped back. But I'll update first and make corrections later. Chapter 261, 133. Suppression for 300 years, additional updates for 800 monthly tickets. Chapter 261, Chapter 133. Suppression for 300 years, additional updates for 800 monthly tickets. The shouts of rage, roars, and angry cries resounded continuously. The palace trembled as if it were a major earthquake, and terrible aftershocks burst forth from the doors. Several cave void cultivators struggled against the aftershocks, their faces rapidly changing color as they repeatedly stepped back. Their hands were trembling, with droplets of blood falling. Let's retreat first. The leading divine sword sect cave void cultivator said anxiously. Everyone retreated again and again, moving from the second palace back to the first, yet they still felt unsafe and continued back to the doorway. In the square, many cultivators who were struggling to move forward were shocked when they saw Lu Yi and others leave the palace, looking puzzled. Since Lu Yi and the others had already entered the palace, why had they come out again? They could not understand. Soon, disciples from Tei Holy Land and Heavenly Palace also arrived at the entrance. The disciples from Tei Holy Land were very friendly, nodding and greeting Lu Yi with a smile. As an Array Tao practitioner, they had great respect for Lu Yi, who possessed a high level of Array Tao skill. The disciples from Heavenly Palace looked at Lu Yi with cold expressions, not approaching. The divinity transformation Array repairer who had been injured by Lu Yi had woken up, almost fully recovered. His look toward Lu Yi was filled with hatred. Lu Yi smiled at him, feeling very calm inside, untroubled. He had lots of trump cards in his hand, not to mention divinity transformation cultivators. Even if a cave void cultivator had any ideas against him, he would actually welcome it. There were more task rewards. The doorway stood between the palace and the square, a junction of two small worlds. At this moment, the disciples from the two Immortal sect Holy Lands also heard deafening roars and terrifying fighting sounds. Their faces changed, everyone looked toward the door, feeling the terrible aftershocks. Their hearts felt chillingly cold. A cave void cultivator from Tei Holy Land asked, "Brother Dongfeng, what's happening inside?" The leading cave void cultivator of Divine Sword sect, named Dongfeng Ling, shook his head gravely. There might be a resentful corpse inside transformed from a deceased Immortal sect powerhouse. It's extremely terrifying. We were in grave danger inside, so we came out. Both the disciples from Tei Holy Land and Heavenly Palace hesitated, none daring to enter. The battle fluctuations inside continued, with roaring and shouting incessantly resounding, causing everyone to tremble with fear, despite being behind two layers of palaces. Soon, other cultivators also gathered around. Wang Beiming from Thunder Sound Holy Land wanted to chat with Lu Yi, but Lei Tianian held him back. Heavenly Dragon Saint's son, realizing the formidable extent of Lu Yi's Array Tao realm, unusually did not provoke Lu Yi, making Lu Yi very satisfied and feeling that this brother had become much more sensible. The battle raged on for a long time, during which screams were heard, causing many to change their expressions. Everyone was greatly alarmed, speculating about the fearsome presence inside. They knew that those who had entered the palace initially were at least of the unification realm. Such great powers have indestructible physical bodies, and a single breath could erase thousands of miles, their power unmatched. Moreover, inside, there were even more powerful great Mahayana cultivators present, beings who could turn clouds with a flip of the hand, and rain with another, incredibly terrifying existences. Even such beings joining forces, some still perished. Everyone was utterly horrified. After a moment, a frustrated roar rose up, shaking the heavens and earth, then it gradually dissipated. Everything returned to calm. "It's over," Wang Beiming announced. The others also nodded in agreement, looking towards the direction of the door. Dongfeng Ling looked at Lu Yi. "Lu Xiaodi, let's go over." Lu Yi nodded, leading the group into the palace. The array patterns inside the palace were more terrifying. Even the Array Tao masters felt their hearts tremble, finding it incomprehensible. This is the Immortal Profound Sun Array. It's an extremely terrifying killing array. It's said that just a wisp of profound sun fire could kill a cave void cultivator, and even unification realm cultivators would get trapped inside if they entered. The formations in the palace are so horrifying. The Tei Saint's son, well-versed, exclaimed shockingly upon seeing the myriad array patterns. Not just the Immortal Profound Sun Array, there are the Green Light Bone Erosion Array, the Nine Heavens Killing Array. Hiss, so many killing arrays. It's going to be difficult for us to get through, said Lin Tianxing, the leader from Tei Holy Land, a cave void realm array repairer, his Array Tao realm extremely high. He too constricted his pupils, exclaiming repeatedly. Such formations could spell certain death for me if I entered. Yes, these are arrays that can kill even unification great powers. Several Array Tao masters frowned as they spoke. Wait, did Lu Yi and his group just go in? Heavenly Dragon Saint's son, hearing the Array Tao masters, thought of something and asked. The atmosphere suddenly fell silent. Several Array Tao masters stopped talking, all turning to look at Lu Yi in astonishment. having also realized this point. Dongfeng Ling, Jian Ruyu, and others were also somewhat numb at this moment. They originally were not very proficient in formations and were unaware. Both sects, Array Tao masters, had remained silent, and they thought the formations were similar to those outside. Now that they heard this, cold sweat ran down everyone's forehead. The formations inside could trap and kill Unification Realm great cultivators, and they had just entered like that. All cultivators from both sects felt a chill, their expressions towards Lu Yi filled with resentment. Jian Ruyu spoke up. "Junior brother, why didn't you tell us how terrible the formations inside were?" Lu Yi looked innocent. "I thought it was okay, we're all safe and sound, aren't we?" Chapter 262. 133, Suppressing for 300 years, additional chapter, for 800 monthly tickets due. Chapter 262. Chapter 133, Suppressing for 300 years, additional chapter, for 800 monthly tickets /2. To tell the truth, the formation was somewhat challenging for Lu Yi, but it was still within an acceptable range. The main issue was that the materials used to set up the formations were quite precious, and given the effort involved, not the entire palace was outfitted with them. All he needed to do was to adjust a few array patterns, and he could disable the formation for a while, making things even easier than before. Lin Tianxing looked at Lu Yi, exclaiming in admiration, "Taoist Lu, I originally thought I had fully understood your Array Tao realm, but it turns out I had underestimated you. Your Array Tao realm is probably on a par with our sect elders." This statement astonished everyone present. One must know that in the Tei Holy Land, where the array is the path to enlightenment, the elders are at least array repairers of the unification realm, capable of constructing great arrays in their own realm to entrap peers of the same strength. If given enough time and materials, even cultivators of the Mahayana realm might not be able to withstand. Array repairers are strong, not in terms of immediate combat, but in their ability to set up formations. Given enough time to a powerful array repairer to set up a powerful enough formation, they would be almost unmatched among their peers. Now everyone's gaze toward Lu Yi shifted. Lu Yi practiced both swordsmanship and arrays. In terms of immediate combat, sword cultivators were among the strongest, and no one dared to underestimate Lu Yi's sword Dao realm, not even the disciples of the Heavenly Palace who hadn't witnessed the fight in cold Cicada ancient city. They too had heard about it and held Lu Yi in high regard. And if Lu Yi were given enough time to deploy his powerful formations, one could only imagine how terrifying he would become. Even cave void cultivators viewed Lu Yi with serious respect in their eyes. Though Lu Yi's cultivation base wasn't high, with his Array Tao realm and his existing cultivation, setting up several divinity transformation arrays was not out of the question. Coupled with his sword Dao cultivation, if Lu Yi had preparation time, even cave void cultivators might not be his match. Upon realizing this, many cultivators were immensely shocked. Dongfeng Ling spoke up, "Lu Xiaodi, can we go in now?" Lu Yi nodded, casually touching a few spots, and rapidly the array patterns changed. Lu Yi said, "Go ahead, the formation will be ineffective for a meal's time." The crowd was silent. To other Array Tao masters, such fearsome arrays appeared to be easily neutralized by Lu Yi. Saint heirs and cultivators from the Immortal sect, Holy Lands and major sects all looked at Lu Yi, their expressions flickering non-stop. Lin Tianxing chuckled, "Junior brother Lu's Array Tao achievements are impressive. If you have the time, you should visit our Tei Holy Land. I'm sure our elders would enjoy discussing Array Tao with you." Lu Yi's eyes lit up at these words. What he lacked now was the heritage of Array Tao, and with access to it, he would even be capable of perceiving an immortal array. His comprehension was too strong, as his Taoist nascent soul kept capturing the essence of the Tao. Coupled with sudden enlightenment tea, and task rewards, understanding an immortal array was really not impossible. Of course, understanding was one thing, but being able to deploy it was another. Setting a formation required the support of spiritual energy, and sometimes the addition of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Even if Lu Yi comprehended an immortal array, just etching one array pattern might drain him completely. However, whether one can deploy an array is one issue, and whether one can solve it is another. Destruction is always simpler than creation, and in the future, facing an immortal array, he would also have enough confidence. He quickly replied with a smile, "I've heard that the Tei Holy Land pursues the array as a path, being the holy land for all array repairers. If I have the chance, I will definitely go there to perceive the mysteries of Array Tao. Lin Tianxing clapped his hands and laughed heartily. Haha, of course, you be welcome. You and Ming Yun are probably not far apart in age. You two young people should have a lot in common, and I hope you can exchange more in the future. Lin Tianxing was actually also quite young relative to cave void cultivators, but compared to Lu Yi, he was naturally older and of a different generation to the younger ones. He belonged to the same generation as cultivators like Wang Beiming and Dongfeng Ling. Su Minjian, being the Tei Saint's son, smiled at Lu Yi after hearing this, appearing quite friendly. Brother Lu, if it's possible, Ming Yun would like to seek your guidance in Array Tao. Lu Yi smiled and replied, Of course, no problem. If Brother Ming Yun is interested, I will certainly engage in a thorough discussion with you. Lu Yi mused to himself, I will discuss Array Tao with Su Minjian. Task: discuss Array Tao with Su Minjian. Reward: Array Tao Enlightenment Enhancement, 100 drops of 1,000-year-old spirit marrow. Do you wish to accept the task? Yes, no. Seeing this, Lu Yi was very happy, having found a target for task rewards, especially since it was Array Tao Enlightenment. Not bad at all. Lu Yi gladly accepted the task. Seeing Tei Holy Land engaging in friendly conversation with Lu Yi, other sects also approached, engaging in discussions with Lu Yi. Wang Beiming of the Thunder Sound Immortal sect said with a smile, Lu Xiaodi, don't forget to come to our sect to discuss the Tao with junior sister Tianyan. As soon as Wang Beiming finished speaking, he was struck by lightning. Lei Tianyan withdrew her hand in annoyance, but she glanced at Lu Yi, her beautiful eyes also shining with a special luster. Lu Yi's demonstrated talent was too powerful. Even a saintess of a holy land couldn't remain unaffected. Seeing the look in Lei Tianyan's eyes, Jian Ruyu furrowed his brow, approached Lu Yi and said, Junior brother, we should go in. Lu Yi nodded, all right. While the group of cultivators conversed and laughed with Lu Yi along the way, the disciples of the heavenly palace kept their distance, their expressions cold, as Lu Yi had after all suppressed all of them before. Chapter 263, 133, Suppression for 300 years extra chapter for 800 monthly tickets 3. Chapter 263, Chapter 133, Suppression for 300 years extra chapter for 800 monthly tickets /3. Soon they passed through 3 palace gates and arrived at the deepest part of a grand hall. Upon entering the hall, everyone's pupils shrank, faces filled with astonishment. The ground was a mess, and even the immortal sex array patterns could not completely withstand it, with deep pits scattered everywhere and numerous columns, too thick for 10 people to wrap their arms around, broken and lying on the ground. The ground was strewn with severed limbs and fresh blood. In the central area, a humanoid monster covered in dark scales lay on the ground, its body split into several parts, surrounded by dark fresh blood, with wisps of black smoke still rising from it. Even as a corpse, it emitted a terrifying aura of evil and death. The cultivators who were still alive looked very pale, most of them injured. Even those who were not injured had their spiritual energy heavily depleted. Upon seeing Lu Yi and others enter, a group of great powers were somewhat surprised. Ding Qing saw the people of the Divine Sword sect approaching and walked over, his astonishment through the roof. How did you get in? Ding Qing's face was pale, speckled with some black bloodstains, but he appeared uninjured. However, Lu Yi noticed that there were only 2 unification elders left following Ding Qing, where there had been more before. It seemed the others had likely died. A Mahayana cultivator from the Emperor's Sword sect also approached, his arm bearing a deep wound. Originally, more unification elders were following him, but now only 2 remained. The power of the grand array outside was extraordinary. How did you get through? The Mahayana great power from the Emperor's Sword sect also expressed curiosity. Dongfeng Ling smiled. It was Lu Xiaodi who let us in. His mastery in the Array Tao realm, even if it's not as profound as his Sword Tao realm, isn't far off. All the Mahayana and unification great powers looked towards Lu Yi in surprise. Kiddo Lu, you've also mastered formation. Even as a Mahayana cultivator, having lived so many years, Ding Qing was also greatly surprised, and reached a realm close to that of the Sword Tao. The other great powers were equally shocked, looking at Lu Yi. Lu Yi smiled sheepishly. Yeah, I also practice array patterns diligently on regular days. This rendered Jian Ruyu and others speechless. Previously, Lu Yi had said he only looked into it during his spare time, and now it turned into diligently studied. Even though Lu Yi claimed he had practiced seriously, it still left elders like Ding Qing in continuous admiration. A natural-born genius. Mastering both Array Tao and Sword Dao, it's hard to imagine his future. In my nearly 10,000 years of life, this is the first time I've encountered someone with the air of an ancient demon. The other great powers who heard the conversation from the younger generation stared at Lu Yi with indescribable looks, but all were surprised. From the heavenly palace direction, an old man of Mahayana realm, upon hearing the reports from his sect disciples, looked at Lu Yi and squinted his eyes, pondering for a moment. Then he walked towards Lu Yi and, without a word, stretched out a large hand and reached for Lu Yi. Ding Qing and the Mahayana great power of the Emperor Sword sect immediately noticed, and both their expressions turned cold. Sword's intent soared to the sky, standing in front of Lu Yi. The usually amiable Ding Qing now had a very cold expression, holding a long sword, and looked at the old man. Liu Tu, what do you think you're doing? The Mahayana great power from the Emperor Sword sect also had a cold expression, his Emperor Sword intent surrounding him like a yellow dragon. He spoke. Liu Tu, to capture someone right before us, you're really not taking us seriously. The other great powers also looked over. Liu Tu glanced at Lu Yi and began indifferently. This kid almost killed all the talents of our heavenly palace outside. Naturally, I must take him back and suppress him within the heavenly palace for 300 years. Lu Yi's expression remained calm, but he was extremely angry inside. Just now, Liu Tu's hand had locked the space, which even he felt was very dangerous. Unexpectedly, this great power had disregarded his own dignity to capture him personally, something he had not anticipated at all. This damn thing is a great Mahayana. Lu Yi glanced toward the direction of the heavenly palace, where an array repairer of the divinity transformation realm was staring at him with a cold sneer. The other disciples were also looking at Lu Yi, their expressions cold. Hearing this, Ding Qing laughed and said coldly, "Your heavenly palace disciples are arrogant and provocative, attacking the disciples of my divine sword sect first. I haven't come to settle the score with you yet, but you came looking for me first." Nan Yuking of the Emperor Sword sect, his expression cold and his sword intent soaring, said, "My Emperor Sword sect's disciples were also involved. If not for Kiddo Lu, could they have survived? I've decided to protect Kiddo Lu today. If anyone wishes to fight, just come." Liu Tu looked at them calmly and said, "I have no intention of killing him, only to suppress him within the palace for 300 years as a minor punishment. When the time is up, he will naturally be released." Upon hearing this, the nearby great powers felt something was off. A great Mahayana from Tei Holy Land changed his expression slightly, looking at Liu Tu with some suspicion. "Liu Tu, could it be that you have taken a fancy to Lu Yi's peerless talent, intending to forcibly take him back to your sect as a disciple?" At these words, the other great powers also changed their expressions, looking at Liu Tu with even more dissatisfaction. "Liu Tu, don't go too far. This inheritance land originally belongs to everyone in the Eastern Domain. It's fine that your heavenly palace is involved, but now you want to forcibly snatch our Eastern Domain's heavenly pride demon. Heavenly Palace's actions are a bit too domineering, aren't they? Even snatching disciples, haha." The other great powers also caught on, each expressing their dissatisfaction. The expressions of Ding Qing and Nan Yuking also changed, looking at Liu Tu even more coldly. Damn it, they were both coveting Lu Yi's sword talent, but neither of their sects had resorted to force. Yet this dog, clearly a cultivator from the central domain, was thinking about forcing the issue. This was simply outrageous. Lu Yi was also startled, looking at Liu Tu with some suspicion. Was this his intention? He glanced at the distant disciples of the heavenly palace. The expression of that array repairer in the divinity transformation realm was very rigid, looking at Liu Tu in utter disbelief, while the other disciples also had strange expressions. Liu Tu's expression remained calm and unyielding. He glanced at Lu Yi and said, "Since you all insist on protecting him, then so be it." With that, Liu Tu turned and walked back. Lu Yi watched Liu Tu with some uncertainty, unsure of what the man was truly thinking. Regardless of his reasons, Lu Yi was unhappy. Liu Tu and the disciples of the heavenly palace were all extremely domineering, a sect that Lu Yi truly could not come to like. This little episode was quickly forgotten, as all the great powers now focused on the central area. Behind a pile of remains, there was a door. The door was engraved with extremely complex array patterns that even made Lu Yi feel dizzy just from one glance. He did not understand it. This was an immortal array. The inheritance of the immortal sword sect should be inside, a great power stated, his voice trembling slightly from excitement. Chapter 264, 134 Immortal Artifact and Immortal Open Their Eyes. Chapter 264, Chapter 134 Immortal Artifact and Immortal Open Their Eyes. But who can open the door to these inheritances, guarded by an immortal array? Another great power frowned and asked. The others were also frowning. The sect protection array of the immortal sect Holy Land was at the level of an immortal array. If it wasn't incomplete or damaged, even a cultivator at the Tribulation Crossing realm who specialized in arrays would have extreme difficulty opening it, and it wouldn't be something that could be accomplished in just a year or two. And the immortal array here was obviously intact, its emitted immortal light making all the great powers feel a chill in their hearts. Jian Ruyu looked at Lu Yi and asked, "Junior brother, can you open this immortal array?" Dongfeng Ling and others also looked over. After all, Lu Yi had seemed very relaxed in his journey up to this point. Lu Yi was filled with black lines and said speechlessly, "Senior Sister Ruyu, do you think I'm an immortal? If I could open an immortal array, why would I need the array book from the Heavenly Palace?" The others felt a bit disappointed, but it was not unexpected. Only the disciples of the Heavenly Palace had pitch-black expressions, watching Lu Yi coldly. This bastard really knew how to hit a sore spot. Ding Qing and other great powers were silent, turning their attention to a great Mahayana cultivator from Tei Holy Land, and asked, "Brother Yuan, what do you think?" The great Mahayana cultivator from Tei Holy Land, named Yuan Jin, looked at the array patterns, shook his head, and said, "Even the hidden elders of my sect would struggle to break these patterns in a short amount of time." Everyone was disappointed. "In that case, let's inform the clan so that our elders can come and decipher the formation," one of the great powers said. The others nodded in agreement. Just then the array patterns suddenly flickered uncertainly, lighting up with streaks of golden luminescence, as if activated. Everyone was on high alert, watching the array patterns closely. If the immortal array was activated and started releasing its lethal power, even great Mahayana cultivators would find it difficult to resist. Right now, Lu Yi's expression changed as his interspatial ring suddenly started to glow faintly. Then, a streak of golden light flew out of the ring. Lu Yi's face took on a drastic change when he caught sight of it. It was a token made of neither metal nor wood, engraved with mysterious and complex Tao patterns. The Immortal Sword Order. The prize Lu Yi had received from the Sword Tao Conference's task. This Immortal Sword Order had somehow resonated with the Immortal Array and flew out on its own. Lu Yi was shocked and then came to a realization. The Immortal Sword Order was a token of the Immortal Sword Sect. It seemed to be related to the Immortal Array. The change happening on Lu Yi's side caught the attention of all the great powers. They understood that the token in Lu Yi's hands seemed to be connected to the array patterns. Suddenly, the gazes of cultivators from several Immortal Sect Holy Lands started to flicker. Lu Yi felt countless terrifying divine senses come to rest on him. A great power spoke outright, "Kid, give me that token. I am a supreme elder of the Demon Cloud sect. There will be a generous reward in it for you later." Another great power said, "Lu Yi, where did you get this token? Let us have a look, see if it can open this immortal array." Even a few of the sacred land immortal sects seemed tempted to act. If not for the cultivators from the Divine Sword Sect and Emperor Sword Sect standing before Lu Yi, it was likely that many would have charged forward. Lu Yi was speechless inside. He hadn't expected the Immortal Sword Order to be activated under such circumstances, leaving him utterly unprepared. Yuan Jin of Tei Holy Land hesitated for a moment, then spoke up. "Fellow friends, this token belongs to fellow friend Lu. You all are of considerable age. Surely you don't intend to rob a junior of his possession, do you?" Lu Yi glanced at Yuan Jin, somewhat taken aback, not expecting a great power from Tei Holy Land to speak up for him. Ding Qing was also cold, eyeing the crowd and saying, "Kiddo Lu's possession is his own. Anyone who wants to try to take it by force can give it a shot. My Divine Sword Sect fears no one." Liu Tu of the Heavenly Palace, his spiritual energy flowing around him, eyed Lu Yi as if deep in thought and remained silent. Although the other few Holy Lands showed signs of unease, seeing the three great powers from the Holy Lands by Lu Yi's side, They hesitated for a moment and did not speak. For a time, the atmosphere grew silent and tense. Just then, the light on the immortal array burst forth suddenly, streams of golden light shining as brilliant as the sun, with terrifying fluctuations emanating that caused the cultivators from Unification and Mahayana realms to continually change their expressions and retreat cautiously. Luya felt the immortal sword order in his hand becoming exceedingly hot, like holding magma, and even his robust physical body felt scorched. The next moment, the immortal sword order trembled, and a beam of light shot towards the immortal array. As the light beam entered, the array patterns on the immortal array flickered even more violently, a fearsome disturbance rampaging through the air, causing the younger cultivators at the Golden Core realm to collapse to the ground, trembling uncontrollably. Even those at the nascent Soul realm felt as though heavy mountains were pressing down upon them. It was only because this location was filled with array patterns everywhere that such pressure didn't cause the surrounding land for thousands of miles to collapse under the strain. As the array patterns flashed, the entire palace trembled, and the next moment, the great doors slowly began to open on their own. A dense spiritual energy burst forth, invigorating the mind of anyone nearby. A single breath made one feel refreshed and slightly enhanced their cultivation base. Luya's face changed. How the hell did this immortal array just open by itself? With so many great powers present, what could he possibly take for himself once the door was opened? What worried Lu Yi the most was if the immortal sword scripture was inside. How would he be able to cultivate it if he couldn't get to it? Switch to another cultivation technique. In a brief moment, many thoughts flashed through Lu Yi's mind. Soon the immortal array dissolved, and the gate was fully opened.